I'm going to go ahead and we're still admitting all, and we're going to go ahead and I'm turning everybody's videos off except for Saul's and mine. Good morning, guys. We are talking this morning about the National Association of Realtors settlement, what it means to real estate agents and consumers. And oh, hang on one second. Let me hit mute all. I'm hearing somebody in the background. There we go. All right. So this is going to be crazy. I got to stand up here for this. This is going to be insane. Saul, man, I'm so glad you agreed to jump on last minute with us like this. Everybody, I'm going to have you keep your videos off and keep your microphones off. Saul and I are going to talk this morning about exactly what's going on with this National Association of Realtors lawsuit. And more importantly, the settlement that just happened. We're also going to be talking about exactly what you need to do and how this is just like
COVID. I know, but you yell at me as if I'm just.
Yeah, we can hear you there, Amanda. All right, I just went ahead and I muted you out. And so I'm keeping everybody muted and we're keeping everybody off of video. Normally we would have done this as a webinar, but we had to do this last minute and I wanted to make sure we had an easy link for everybody to follow, so we didn't do it that way. That being said, we've got a lot of people logging in. So guys, keep those microphones and those videos turned off. And we're going to tell you exactly what you need to do, because here's the deal. It is a major change in the marketplace right now, the NAR settlement. And by the way, we're going to talk about, is this even official yet? And what should we do? And what's likely to happen next? And so I've got with me Saul. And by the way, guys, again, turn those videos off. We're going to keep the videos and microphones off, guys, except for Saul and I. All right, hold on one second. There we go. All right. So Saul, talk to us really quick, brother. You're the current president of the San Diego Association of, the San Diego MLS, and you've got a long history of involvement with the National Association of Realtors. I mean, come on, let's face it, man. You like, if Moses came down from the mount with the stone plates, Saul came down from the mount with NAR and with pretty much everything that this industry has to thank guys like Saul for over the years. Because let me tell you something, without Saul, a lot of us wouldn't be here today. And so that being said, Saul, welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to do this with us today. I don't know how many we have on Facebook. And by the way, if you guys could all do me a favor and also be following this on Facebook and maybe put your comments in here, and we'll be able to share your comments to Facebook. I'd love it if you'd put them in there as well, so that we can get as much engagement as possible. But Saul, talk to us about this settlement. So NAR has this lawsuit. We just had all these lawsuits come up and we're talking about one lawsuit in particular, but there's been a lot of follow-on lawsuits. And specifically, they're complaining about what they perceive as a violation by the Association of Realtors and real estate agents in general, that we have violated the Sherman Antitrust Act. So first of all, give us your take on that, and then let's you and I talk about what just happened and where we go from here.
Yeah, sure, Michael. Thanks. It's great to be here. I'm glad that a lot of people are interested in this. I've been beating the drum for years. I'm currently the CEO of a multiple listing service, but this has been of interest to me as a real estate practitioner for years and years. As a matter of fact, when agency disclosure first reared its head, and I might talk a little bit about that, back in 1988, and in 1991, I actually wrote a course on, you can see that, how to list buyers. Right, because in 1990,
I love that you're pounding that drum too, because man, I've been telling people forever they need to be getting buyer agency agreement signed, and it seems like few have listened. So keep going.
And so here's what we have. First of all, you've heard this before, and Michael, you're an advocate of this, I know, and that is knowledge is power. Right, knowledge is power. You need to know about this. You need to be able to talk about this. You're seeing things. Look at the number of people that are here. We're seeing people talking about this proposed settlement at this point. Proposed settlement. We see people talking about this on in social media. And so first important point for me is that social media is full of people who are not always right, but never in doubt. Not always right, but never in doubt. And so here we are, right after a proposed settlement, and you've got all kinds of opinions and all kinds of people telling us what is right and what is wrong and what you can do and what you can't do. And I got to tell you, I believe I'm an expert in this area, and I haven't finished the 108-page settlement agreement because it just came out yesterday. And I don't know many people that have read this settlement agreement. And then there's a 5-page summary and another 4-page Q&A. And so first thing I think that people need to do, if you're really interested in this, and you should be, because this is a paradigm shift, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute, you need to read this stuff.
So
And it's
Saul,
gonna
I'm gonna
differentiate
pause
you
you
from
right there,
everybody
Saul.
else if you do.
Saul, real quick, I'm going to pause you right there. What I want you to do is, Saul, if you could send me a copy of that, what we're going to do is we're going to post that on the Club Wealth website. So you'll be able to go to clubwealth.com/settlement, clubwealth.com/settlement. Give us a couple hours to get that posted, but we'll get that posted for y'all so that you can read it there. Because Saul, I agree with you. And by the way, if we can take this video, Tara, we'll get this video uploaded to the website there as well. But Saul, you're right. People need to read this settlement. And I want to key in on one word, Saul. And I think that this is a word that everybody is missing in all this. Proposed. This is a proposed settlement. The judge has not signed off on it yet. This is something that NAR and the opposing side have tentatively agreed on, that the judge must first sign off on before it becomes an actual settlement. Is that correct?
That's right. This is a proposed settlement. Now, having said that, I got to believe that a lot of what people have agreed on in the proposed settlement is going to come to pass. Hey, Austin.
Good morning.
Right. So it is proposed, but that's a good thing at this point. It gives people a chance to prepare, because this is a paradigm shift. And you talked about it. And what we're talking about is not change. We're talking about fundamental change. And so here's the questions you have to ask yourself when you're confronting fundamental change. And the first question is, what's currently possible in your business? And if it were impossible, it would fundamentally change the way you do business. What's currently possible, and if it were impossible, it would fundamentally change the way you do business. The other side of that question was currently impossible, and if it were possible, it would fundamentally change the way you do business. Now, everybody's used to doing business a certain way in real estate, and they do it through MLS, and this is an important point. What is an MLS? It's a number of things, but primarily, and if you look at the bylaws of MLSs, primarily, an MLS is a unilateral offer of compensation. That's what it is. And so what that means is you only need one contract that commits somebody to pay a commission. And then if you join the MLS, you don't need a contract to guarantee commission, because you're a member of the MLS, and the MLS is an offer of compensation. So if I take a listing, then I get a contract with the seller, and I get the seller to agree to pay a commission, then I can split my commission through the MLS with any other member of the MLS. And so if you join the MLS, you could be a brand new agent. You just happen to sit on an open house today. You got somebody who walks in, they're interested. You write up an offer. You don't have no experience, but you can earn the same thing as somebody who has 20 years experience because of the MLS. And what the Department of Justice has said, and by the way, this is an old argument for the Department of Justice. They've been after organized real estate for over 40 years. Probably 50 years. I've been licensed for 48 years, and I've been dealing with this and looking at this and paying attention to this for years. And so, and here's another kind of a side point. Realtors always, and rightly so, are afraid to talk about commissions and antitrust, huh? You ever been in a discussion and somebody mentions commissions and people say, whoa, you can't talk about commissions, antitrust. And so that's what this is. This is about antitrust. This is about what realtors are deathly afraid of, antitrust. And what the Department of, and people will disagree. Well, there's no collusion. Well, I don't care what you think. I'm telling you what the Department of Justice thinks, right? Oh, it's the attorneys, they're worse than what, yeah, it's all just what drama around reality. The fact is the Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Reserve, the United States government has been after the organized real estate. And I can provide you with documents over many years. They've been after us, right? So now,
okay, hold on. I got to stop you right there, Saul, because I think that people are missing the real why behind all this, right? And look, I don't want to get all political on everybody. I'm not, I don't care if you're conservative, liberal. I don't care what your religious backgrounds are. I don't give a rip about any of that, right? Really, yeah, I've told this to people for years. All I care about is, are we going to be nice to each other? Can we make money together? Can I help you in some way? That's all I care about. That being said, let's call it what it is. There's a side of the political spectrum that believes in what I'm just going to call it socialism. I think that, you can call it all kinds of different things, but at the end of the day, there is a movement in America to create an environment where independent business, where independent thought, where independent opportunity does not exist, and where it's, everybody is treated as one and the same. And I'm telling you right now, guys, that group of individuals, that part of our government is working very, very hard to change the opportunity for you as a real estate agent. They do not want you making the kind of money that you make. They want to reduce commissions. Now, I don't think that this is going to reduce commissions for the best agents. I think that it is going to mean a lot of agents are going to get out of the business. I think that it's going to make it difficult for agents that don't know how to negotiate, that don't know how to get a buyer agency agreement signed, that don't take matters into their own hands. But I think just like the travel industry, where you had Orbitz and Travelocity and all these companies come out that people thought were going to do away with the entire travel industry. Guess what? The travel industry is not gone. What we have is now we have fewer travel agents that do more business each, and they each make a lot. I should say the good ones make a ton of money right now. Why are they able to make so much money? Because they have learned to pivot, and they know how to negotiate. They know how to deliver the type of world-class service their clients expect. And that's where we need to go as an industry. Saul, keep going.
Yeah, so I think for most, and I would say most people in real estate, this is going to require a change in the way they do business. And you're right,
Yes.
some people are not going to survive the change, right?
That's right.
And the major change revolves, and on the political side, all I would say to that, and you and I had a little discussion about this last night, is remember, this thing spans over 40 years. So you've had different political parties in power over this period of time. It's almost not party related, right? There's something else going on here. But what they're after and have been after is the change in the way an MLS works. So I have to give you a little history. And I think, again, knowledge is power. Your buyers and sellers are going to hear about this. They're going to have questions about this. They're going to want to know about this. And one of the ways to build trust and confidence in a sales relationship is to demonstrate expertise. And I guarantee you that most of the people that you're competing with don't have a clue about this. They have opinions, but they don't have a clue about what's really going on. So the more you know about what's really going on, as a matter of fact, you could even provide, we talk about these documents, Michael, I'd make these documents available to my customers, to my clients, right? Just make them available. Because why? Because nobody else is doing it.
That's right.
And so you want to be able to take advantage of this opportunity that is actually here because of the press that the industry is going to get.
So stop right there. I got to jump in on this, Saul. Guys, I want you to write this down. Seriously, write this down right now. We've had this conversation when COVID hit. We had this conversation back when the Great Recession hit. We had this conversation here this last year as the market shifted. Write this down. Where there's chaos, there's opportunity. Where there's chaos, there's opportunity. And let me tell you something, there's chaos in the industry right now, and it's getting bigger. And even though this settlement, this proposed settlement is not official yet, it is likely to get approved. This is likely to become law. And we've been saying this we didn't know if it was going to take 2 or 5 years. We didn't know how long this was going to hang up in the courts. But what I've been telling people and what Saul's been telling people forever, and by the way, we're going to be joined by Mike Ferry here in a little bit as well, I think in about a half hour. But guys, I want you to understand that we've been saying forever exactly what's happening right now. This is going to hit. It's going to become law nationwide that you're going to be required to use buyer agency agreements. It is going to be the best thing that ever happened to some of you. It is going to be the best thing that happened to this industry in a long time. Why? Because it's going to raise the bar of professionalism. And I know these guys think it's going to mean a reduction in commissions, but for you smart agents, for those of you that are listening, especially for those of you that are coaching with Club Wealth, let me just tell you something. We're going to teach you how to make sure that this means not a reduction of, but an increase in your commissions. Why? Because they're going to be looking for more professional agents. The consumer is going to get more educated on this, and the weak agents are going to go away, and that's going to open up the door for strong agents like you to make even more than you've ever made before. Go ahead, Saul.
Yeah, and you're going to have to be able to make the case, and that's the key.
That's right.
MLS actually supported inefficiency, right? You didn't have to make the case on the buy side. All you had to do was show property. Yep. Now you're going to have to make the case. And so let me talk a little bit about change before. MLS hasn't always been an offer of compensation. Prior to 1996, it was an offer of sub-agency. Mm-hmm. And so MLS changed dramatically when agency disclosure came into the picture in the mid-1980s. the structure of MLS was we all represented the seller, believe it or not. And we didn't even have to tell the buyer that. And then with agency disclosure, we had to start to tell the buyer. So the MLS model rules and this is an important point. MLS is typically, most of them, the ones covered by this settlement, they follow the model rules of NAR, the National Association of Realtors. National Association of Realtors doesn't have an MLS, but what it does is it creates best practices, standards for an MLS, and then goes out and says, look, to insurance companies, we want insurance for antitrust for our MLSs. And if you're an MLS owned by an association of realtors and you follow the rules promulgated by NAR, then you're covered by their insurance. So NAR provides this umbrella, this protection for MLSs. It doesn't have an MLS.
Okay, so let's stop right there because I think you're bringing up a very good point, Saul. This settlement, this proposed settlement, NAR, one of the things that they did, and there's some confusion on this, and guys, I really want you to listen carefully to this part because there's some confusion as to what did this settlement actually accomplish for real estate agents at large. So one of the things that NAR accomplished with the settlement, so remember, and by the way, I'm turning everybody's cameras off. Patrick, I'm going to stop that video for you. There you go. We keep coming back. And Tara, we can see you now. I'm taking you off video too. You're as cute as you are. All right. Love you, sweetheart. All right. So check this out. Oh my gosh, guys, keep those videos off. I'm going to keep the videos off, guys. There we go. Thank you. All right. Now, that being said, here's what they said. Essentially, it's part of something. First, we got to understand this big lawsuit came out. Hey, we're going to go after him for, billions of dollars. And then the NAR said, hold on a second. We're going to fight this tooth and nail. We're going to fight all the way. And I think a lot of people thought that NAR was completely asleep at the wheel. We had a lot of criticism thrown toward NAR from agents thinking that they were completely asleep at the wheel on this. And I think there's an argument to be made that they were actually playing the long game. I think there's an argument to be made that the association was a lot smarter than people are giving them credit for, because instead of just continuing to fight this down the road, what they've done is they've negotiated a settlement. Instead of it being billions, it's like 400 and some odd million. And it's so basically what they did was they said, look, you can fight us. We're going to continue to fight this long term, or we'll just make you a little settlement right now. And 400 and some odd million dollars is not that much. I mean, it's not in the grand scheme of things in comparison. And they said, hey, we're just going to make you a settlement. But as part of this settlement, all of our members, all of the Association of Realtors members. Now, I love it. You've seen a lot of people bail out of the association here recently. And don't get me wrong, I've not necessarily been the biggest cheerleader for the association throughout my career either. I'm certainly, not in love with some of the stuff that's gone on in the back office back there, if you know what I mean. And there's been certain things that I don't agree with the association on. But I will say this. By settling this, what they have done is they've said, anybody who's an Association of Realtors member, and I want to say it was prior to 2022, Saul, correct me if I'm wrong on that number, but I believe it was prior to 2022, anybody that was a member of the Association of Realtors during that time, that no other lawsuits, no what they call fall-on lawsuits or follow-on lawsuits, nobody subsequent to this lawsuit can sue those agents for this antitrust violation as long as they were a member of the association during that period of time. So those of you that belong to the association, you guys just got a huge victory. Am I right about this, Saul?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm an advocate for the National Association of Realtors. I've been a realtor member for over 40 years, right? So, and I believe in many of the things that it does. And there's some things it does I don't agree with, obviously, but I'm an advocate. And I think this was the smartest thing that they could do at this point. So what does it do? So the MLS is an offer of compensation. That's a rule that is in the model rules of the National Association of Realtors. Department of Justice says, as long as you got that rule, then buyers don't really get a chance to, now, right or wrong, buyers don't really get a chance to negotiate commissions. So NAR, here's what we want you to do. And we're suing you for damages because buyers shouldn't have had to pay all these commissions over the years. And so NAR has agreed to change the MLS by pulling out of the model rules. And if it pulls it out of the model rules, it pulls it out of all of the other local association MLS rules. The MLS is no longer going to be an offer of compensation. And you will not be able, as a listing agent, you will not be able to offer commissions through the MLS. Now, you will be able to offer commissions off the MLS for the seller, and the seller will be able to, but through the MLS, you will not be able to offer compensation. And that's a key key point because, and then one other thing that makes it really important is NAR is going to require, the MLS is going to require that you have a contract, a written contract with a buyer before you show a property. But I want to add one thing, Michael, before I let you jump in, and that is I'm a California Association of Realtors director.
Yeah.
And at the last meeting about 3 weeks ago in Monterey, the directors of the California Association of Realtors voted to have CAR, that's the California Association of Realtors, sponsor legislation. That goes beyond a trade organization. To sponsor legislation to make buyer broker contracts mandatory. So you're right, the buyer broker contract, and I'm glad you've been teaching it because again, I go back to 1991 when I created a course with 4 cassette tapes. Remember cassette tapes?
Dude, where's your 8-track course? I know you had a course on 8-track.
Yeah, no, this is a little bit after that, right?
Right. That was after the Stone Tablets course.
Yeah. So now it's finally, you're going to be required. And what that's going to do is that's going to make people who represent buyers have to confront commissions and negotiation of commissions and proving their value. So here's the big change. This is what this settlement does. It eliminates your ability to offer compensation to a buyer's agent through the MLS. Dude, the MLS.
I got to jump in on this. I'm just chomping at the bit on this thing. Hold on. I got to lower Tara's hand. Tara, lower your hand there. Whoever's on Tara's login there. Hold on. Let me just lower hand. There we go. All right. This is cracking me up. So first of all, I want everybody to type in the Facebook chat, not here in this webinar, but on Facebook. I want you guys to type in which MLS do you belong to? Just trust me. Watch this. Type in what MLS do you belong to in the Facebook chat, not in the chat on the Zoom here, just in the Facebook group, in the Facebook chat. Now watch this. Saul, years ago, I was a member of the absolute worst MLS on the planet, in my opinion. It's the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. It is not an association to own multiple, and that's why I think that's what causes them to be, or what's one of the contributing factors to them being the worst MLS on the planet. They are the most punitive. They are privately owned, so they're a for-profit entity. And the way they make their money is by fining agents. And don't even get me started on those guys. I mean, when I see around the country, I see fines of agents in the $25, $50, maybe even $100 range. Man, I've had a fine. I've had literally fines from the Northwest multiple in the 10, 15, 20,000, even $100,000 range. And I don't know why Tara keeps raising her hand, but Tara, quit raising your hand. All right. That being said, I love you, sweetie. All right. That being said, guys, here's where I'm going with this. There was a time, this was years ago, the Northwest multiple literally they came after me. They fined me because they said that I was required to pay the selling office a certain percentage of the commission that I charged the seller. I wanted to offer zero compensation. My argument was that it was a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act to require me to pay a certain percentage of the commission to the other agent. Not only did they disagree, they fined me thousands of dollars. And why am I saying this? Because I'm telling you guys right now, as many complaints as I have about the Association of Realtors and about individual associations, and as much as I think that there are things that we could do better as an association, that I think the association needs to clean up, like all this sexual harassment garbage in the back office, and every organization of any size has issues they need to clean up. All that being said, guys, let me tell you something. The association and RPAC have done more for your career than you have any idea of. You have no idea how valuable they have been for you. And I just want to give a little shout out and have all of us say, thank you to the people of the association, because let me tell you, it's your peers. It's real estate agents that make up the association. It's real estate agents that run the association. It's real estate agents that have put their careers on hold to help you with yours. So my suggestion is give them a little shout out, give them a little thanks. Now, that being said, we've got some questions, Saul, and I want to keep going on this. There's still a lot more to unpack here, guys. So
Michael, let me tell you right now, there's a lot to unpack. And so that's one of the keys. And one in the settlement is that associations and MLSs have to educate people about this new way of doing business, and that you can't offer. And this is what you can do today. Well, first of all, we're really not going to see major changes until July, mid-July. That's important to note. And you know all the forms you use, if you use your state forms, why mid-July? It's going to take time to adapt and adopt forms, right? And change forms. So it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. What do you do today? You do what you've always done. You try to list and sell real estate, right? Right today. Know that the change is coming and prepare for it. The MLS is not going to be an offer of compensation, but you can offer compensation in other ways. You're going to have a written contract with the buyer. You're going to have your commission stated in there. What this is going to do, according to the Department of Justice, they believe it's going to open up, because a lot of buyers are going to hear about this, to new ways to be compensated. You're either going to be compensated as a percentage of the sale price. You might be compensated a flat fee. You might be compensated by the hour. You might be compensated based on the amount of money you save the buyer in the transaction. So there are a number of ways that this can roll. And so that's why it's so important, particularly, people are listening today that you coach, that they realize this ain't the end. This is the beginning.
Not only is it the beginning, this is a new beginning for those of you that are paying attention. Listen, guys, first and foremost, let me stop and let me back up, because I have a lot of people asking, hey, Michael, does this cover just agents, or does it cover brokers and brokerages as well? It covers both. Now, that being said, assuming you are a member of the National Association of Realtors and have been since prior to 2022. If the answer is no to that, you may or may not be covered by this. There's a pretty good chance you're probably not covered by this settlement if you're not a member of the National Association of Realtors. So let's talk to you folks for a minute. If I've never been or am not a member of the National Association of Realtors, now what? What do the rest of us do? How do we, maneuver around this? And I would suggest that first and foremost, the number one words you need to embrace is disclosure. It is important that we over disclose. And this starts in two places. It's the buyer agency agreement and it's the listing agreement. In those two documents, you must over disclose who's being paid, by whom, how much. If you're very clear with everybody in both of those agreements, and you get those agreements signed before you engage in any activities for these people, let me be very clear about this. Before you show homes, you need to have your buyer agency agreement signed. If you're not getting a buyer agency agreement signed prior to showing homes, you are at risk, especially if you're not a member of the National Association of Realtors. I cannot say this enough time. Look at Saul nodding his head. He's like, yep, I'm seeing those lawsuits coming. Guys, I'm telling you right now, disclosure is the key. Now, if you will disclose this, if you will make sure that you're doing everything you can, does that necessarily guarantee you're not going to get sued? No. Somebody could drive through the drive-thru at McDonald's, spill coffee on themselves, and sue and even win. Somebody could break into your house, freaking in the process of stealing all your stuff. They trip, they fall, they get hurt. They can still sue you. It's stupid. Don't even get me started on that crap. But here's the deal. Go ahead, Saul. Well, hold on one second, Saul. What I want you guys to know is you can't prevent that. You got to do the very best you can with what you have. You got to move forward without fear. And that starts with being informed and doing everything you can to protect yourself while still moving forward. Go ahead, Saul.
Yeah. So you're making, for me, a great point, and that is disclosure, agency disclosure. Agency disclosure is the key to the buyer broker agreement door. Agency disclosure. So you're right. You should make your agency disclosure not before you write the contract, but at the earliest possible time, because it allows you to talk about fiduciary duties. Because one of the things that you bring to the table is the fact that you're a fiduciary, and you can explain fiduciary when you're explaining agency representation. So in California, 3 ways you can represent buyers and sellers in real estate transactions. 3 ways: represent the buyer exclusively, represent the seller exclusively, represent the buyer and seller as a dual agent. 3 ways that you can do that. So you explain what fiduciary is and what your duties are. And they said, now, if you want me to be your fiduciary, the way that we do this, by law, it will be soon, by settlement, then by law, the way that I can represent you as your fiduciary is through a buyer broker agreement, and I would like you to sign the buyer. So it's a step. The agency disclosure is a step closer to getting, because a lot of people are afraid to ask people to sign a buyer broker agreement, and so don't be afraid to do it.
Okay, we can talk about that. So first of all, understand this, guys. I've been seeing this for years, and some of our clients have listened. I'm looking at Austin over here, and I know Austin has listened. I love you, brother. You're awesome. And his entire team has been doing this. But let me just tell you guys right now, it has been voluntary up to this point, but in a few states and a few associations, it has become mandatory in recent months. But I will tell you this. The time is very, we thought again, it could be 2 to 5 years. It is very, very quickly coming, and it's going to be within the next 6 months. It's going to be law across the country that you are going to be required to use a buyer agency agreement before providing any brokerage services to anyone.
So you've got states like,
hang on,
you've got
Saul.
states like,
Okay, go ahead and unmute now. Saul, you're muted. You got to unmute. Sorry, brother. I was
you've
getting
got
some
states
background
like,
noise there. Yeah, go
you've
ahead.
got states like Connecticut that have been doing it for years. But remember, the first step, this is a settlement. And this is between the National Association of Realtors and the plaintiffs in these cases. And one of the conditions of the settlement is that NAR require. And so if you're a member of NAR, you're going to comply with that. The next step is legislative. And I mentioned in California,
Right.
the California
It's already
Association is already started. And in some
right.
states, it's already mandated by legislation.
All right, so I want to have you guys start typing your questions in. I know we've got a lot of questions out there in the chat, especially you can do it in the Zoom, or you can do it on Facebook. I'm watching the feed on Facebook right now. On my main page, if you go to Michael Hellickson on Facebook, you can comment there, and we will answer your questions right now live. But I also want to tell you guys, for those of you that don't know who we are, by the way, my name is Michael Hellickson. At one point in time, I was the #1 agent on planet Earth, listing and selling over 120 to 180 homes a month, closing over 120 to 180 homes a month, and carrying about 750 listings at any given time. Saul, and by the way, now I am one of the coaches in the real estate industry. In fact, I own Club Wealth. We're the #1 coaching and consulting company in the team and brokerage space. We've got over 65 coaches, each of whom sells more real estate than the people they coach. And Saul is a long time, very involved participant, both as a real estate agent and as a member of the National Association of Realtors, as well as local associations. Saul built this empire, this business that we know, right? Saul was one of the guys that really built this thing from the ground up. He's currently the CEO of the San Diego the San Diego MLS, and really knows what he's talking about. So feel free to ask your questions, but I want to start with this, guys. Understand this. This is a great opportunity for those that choose to take advantage of it. This is going to be a time where if you run forward, get your buyer agency agreement squared away, figure out how you're going to write them, make sure your disclosures in them, start using them with every single buyer. And by the way, Saul, a great question that we've got is, how will this affect appraisals? And then how will we offer compensation? I'm going to say this. One of the things that you guys need to keep in mind that's going to be very, very important as we move forward in this is, do not approach a listing agent and ask them to offer you compensation until you have a buyer agency agreement signed. That is very important. And by the way, neither Saul nor I are attorneys. And so we're always going to preface this with seek the advice of legal counsel. But I'm just going to tell you guys, you need to be very careful about asking for compensation prior to having a buyer agency agreement signed. Get that signed first. Now you're empowered to negotiate with the sellers. And Nicole in the comments. Yeah, Nicole, do you want to go ahead and put that to everybody? You sent that to me directly. Nicole Goday. By the way, thank you, Nicole, for helping us organize this today. It was last minute. It was very quick. So if you guys want to be able to comment in the Facebook post, there's the link to be able to do it there. And we're going to do everything we can to answer all your questions as quickly as we can. So Saul, hit the appraisal question first.
Yeah. So first of all, there's this ongoing argument in the real estate industry. We've had this argument for years, and that is, who pays the commission? And so people would say, well, the seller pays the commission. And then people who represent buyers say, no, if you don't have a buyer, the buyer pays the commission. And so who pays the commission? The fact is, if you don't have both of them, you don't have a transaction. If you don't have a transaction, you don't have the commission usually. So the transaction pays the commission. And think about this. When somebody goes out, when an appraisal is made, typically appraisals to fund loans for residential real estate, those appraisals are made without regard for whether or not there's a commission paid. So right now in the industry, when an appraiser goes out, they don't say, okay, this house appraises for $500,000. Oh, let's see, there's a real estate commission, so it's really worth less than that. That's not how it works. They don't subtract the commission from the appraised value. The transaction is really what pays the commission. Now, there will be some adjustments made. The lending industry has to kind of get used to this. But right now, the reason we believe the seller pays the commission is because that's the way it appears on the closing statement. That's the reason we believe that, right?
I'd say, and I want to throw this out there too, because people are asking, I've seen several questions. And by the way, I'm really trying to keep up with the questions in the Facebook, and we're on my Facebook page. We're going to go ahead and we're going to answer all those live here verbally for you guys, but please put them in there so I can try and get them in order. That being said, I'm getting several people asking, well, two things. One, can I still put the listing commission that I'm willing to offer the selling office in my listing remarks? And I think, Saul, that's going to come down to again, the question of offer of compensation. And so I don't know the answer. I would what are your thoughts on that?
So here's what one of the things the DOJ is after and what they believe. They believe, whether it's true or not, I'm going to get into this, right? They believe that agents steer buyers to listings that pay the most commission.
Yep.
Right. Now, we can argue about this all day long. That's what the Department of, I always think of steer and I always think of fair housing, but the Department of Justice says that what happens is you get a buyer agent steers people. So the way that you avoid steering is you don't include any statement about compensation to a buyer's agent in the MLS, and then they can't steer, right?
Correct. I 100% agree with that.
So one thing that's going to happen is the box that says commission buyer broker, CBB, is going to go away. You're not going to.
You're right.
So other people say, well, then you can put it in the remarks section. Now, remember, there's a lot of nuance about this. This is a 108-page document, and I've read over it, and I've talked to my business partner for years, who is an attorney, John Riley, wrote The Language of Real Estate, and we're kind of playing with this, and it looks like in the remarks section, you can say that the seller's willing to pay concession for closing costs as long as it's not tied to the payment of a buyer broker commission. Now you have to think about that for a minute, right? And then think about the objective of the DOJ. They don't want there to be any way that you could say, well, I got a buyer and I got 5 properties to look at, and one pays 0 and the other 4 pay. I ain't showing the one that pays. Okay, so hold on. I don't want that.
So Saul, I agree with you on that. And I 100% agree. That's exactly what, that is one of the main things, not the only thing, but it's one of the main things that they are trying to eliminate. Now, as we have that conversation, guys, one of the things that's very, very important for you to understand is what we're not saying, nobody's saying at this point, hey, we don't want buyers to be like, let's say the buyer is required to pay. Let's say you've got a buyer agency agreement with somebody and they're required to ensure that you get paid X% as the buyer agent on that transaction. Nobody is saying that we don't want the buyers to be able to pay that. And nobody is saying that we don't even want the buyers to be able to finance that. Currently, you've had issues, in recent years, we've had issues with FHA and VA as an example on being willing to allow buyers to roll in a buyer agency fee into their closing costs at closing. I think that's about to change. I'd be very surprised if it didn't. Go ahead, Saul.
But right now, and I've got the document from the VA allows up to 4%, and that includes commission to the buyer's agent. So for the seller, so if the seller wants to pay and they want up to 4%, they can pay it. So already these things are in play.
That's right.
We just don't know they are. And this goes back to education, and this is part of what the settlement wants: education, right? And then the belief is, with more education, there'll be more negotiation, there'll be more understanding. But that gives you an opportunity to prove your value. I saw a question where somebody says, how do you explain fiduciary duties? Well, in California, you've got this disclosure statement. It actually talks about them. I would create a little story about how I represent you, what it means for me to be your fiduciary as I'm going through that buyer agency or actually agency disclosure statement. Use it on the buy side, on the sell side, but we're talking about the buy side now. So fiduciary duty is a powerful duty. The interest of your client over yourself.
Now, that being said, that does not mean that you should not get paid, right? And so there's a point at which Do we owe them a fiduciary responsibility? Yes. Are you still allowed to get paid? Yes. Are you allowed to get paid a lot? Yes. You are allowed to get paid a lot. Nobody can say, hey, we want real estate agents to only get paid this percent. That's not going to happen. As much as they would like to, that's not going to happen.
But here's what's going to happen. This is going to force negotiation. That's what it does. It forces, and that's what the department, they want negotiation for commission. It's going to force negotiation because this does not stop a buyer from asking a seller in the offer to pay the commission of the buyer agent. Now,
okay, hold on. So hold on. Let's back that up. So now we're talking two sides here, right? Let's talk the buyer side, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the listing side because I had like Terry Bias was asking a great question about, can I still negotiate with my seller to have them offer a selling office commission? So let's start with that side. Then let's go back to the buyer side. Terry, to the answer to your question, the short answer is yes, you can and should have that conversation with your seller, but you should not offer it in the MLS. And the reason is because the second you offer it in the MLS, guess what's happening? Now agents can look at this and say, I'm only going to show the properties that offer the most commission. Now you put them in a position of violating their fiduciary responsibility with their buyer. Okay. And so ideally, in a perfect world, that will never happen again, right? And I really think that's coming. I think you're going to see offer of compensation going away entirely in every MLS.
No, it will. That's part of this. It's not going to be part of the MLS any longer because NAR is going to change the MLS model rules, right?
Right. Well, I'm even saying independents. I'm saying the independents are going to have to follow suit too, not just the association owned ones.
Yeah, absolutely. So now when good markets hide a lot. And so in a normal market, if I were taking a listing, I would say to the seller, you can offer compensation to the buyer's agent. As a matter of fact, there might be offers that come in, might ask you to pay the commission of the buyer's agent. And you know what? You can do that.
So now, hold on. Okay, let me jump on that really quick. So it's because this parlays into Kim Quintal asked a very good question. Logistically, how do we express that the seller is willing to pay the buyer agent commission if not allowed in the MLS? You don't. Let me tell you what you do instead. You don't say, hey, we're willing to pay the buyer agent commission. Instead, what you say is seller is offering up to X percent towards buyer's closing costs. The commission may be part of the buyer's closing costs, but it's just a part of. You cannot say, I'm going to offer this to this buyer's agent. You're simply saying, I'm going to offer this to the buyer, and they can use it however they want for closing costs, the commission, the title fees, escrow fees, whatever they want, interest rate buy downs, whatever they want to use it for, that's their choice. Would you agree with that, Saul?
Yeah, and I'm not sure how it's all going to shake out, but as a seller, let's say it's a slow market. Let's say it's a buyer's market. I might want to make concessions. Geez, I remember bad markets, right? And where sellers were willing to make concessions. And so a good market hides a lot. So the seller could, and I think about it, not through the MLS, but could it be placed in advertising? Maybe, right? Don't know yet. This is all going to shake out.
Well, but again, Saul, I think we've got to remember the overriding concern that's driving that portion of this discussion. And there's multiple facets here. It's not just one dimensional. But I think that what we have to realize is that in everything we do as listing agents, and by the way, if you're not, I'll tell you right now, this is a great boon to listing agents and teams that carry a lot of listings, okay? If you're a buyer agent right now, you'd better be on a team that's got a lot of listings. That's all I got to say.
So when I talk to a buyer, I'm going to have to say to them, here's how I get compensated. Buyer, you pay me directly. That's not going to be really very popular, and buyers need every penny they got for the closing, right? But that's what I'm going to have to express this. Buyer, I have to be compensated. And the way I'm compensated is, number one, you can pay me directly. Or we can ask the seller to pay my compensation, and we can put that in the contract. Now, when we write the offer on a piece of property and we ask the seller to pay X percent commission, the seller could counter that. The seller could say, I'm willing to sell my property for the offered price, but not if I got to pay Michael this commission. I'll pay him half of that commission, and then I'll sell it for this price.
That's right.
I mean, lots of stuff's going to happen here. in the next couple of years.
Which again is so important to have that buyer agency agreement signed. Guys, I've been a proponent of this for literally over almost 30 years now, 33 years now. And I've watched agents. I remember back in the day, agents used to get pissed off. They'd get to closing and they'd find out that I, as the listing agent, made more than they did as the buyer agent. You know what? That's not my fault. That's your fault. That's because you suck at negotiating. You want to get paid some money? Start negotiating. Set proper expectations with your client up front. That's what you guys need to do right now. This is all about disclosure and setting proper expectations. Again, with the seller doesn't care who gets paid what. You know what they care about? What do I make at the end of the day? And that's the conversation you need to be having is, how are we going to get the seller? You know, if I represent the seller, how am I going to get you the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of headache to you? That's all they care about. They don't care about you. They don't care about the buyer agent. They don't care about where that money's going. They care about what's going into their bank account and how much headache is it for them. So let's take the headache out of it and do our freaking jobs. Now, I got some other questions in the comments here that are
so
really
before you know it, again, keep in mind now that the commission, if in the contract asking the seller to pay it, that's where some negotiation comes in. And remember, that's what the DOJ is after.
Well, and so you just need to watch this. Kim Quintal asked another question. I'm seeing her. She said, I hear there is a competing trade organization forming. Curious about this. I can tell you, Kim, there's already a competing trade organization out there, and it's called the DOJ, the United States Department of Justice. That's your competing trade organization. I don't know if there's another one. Saul, are you aware of another competing?
Yeah, I hear people talking about it, but I think it's egotistical and, you know, to think that you can just, it's not easy to start a trade association. Hell, realtors, people complain about the fees they're paying right now. Where's the funding going to come from? What are the benefits that it's going to bring? How are you going to convince people to join and pay dues? Right. So this idea that there can be that's just in my mind, it's just so uninformed and arrogant of people who think they could create a competing trade organization. And in whose best interest is it really?
Yeah.
Right. So honestly, I think that's a difficult road.
I think if we look at it, if we're being honest with ourselves, I think if we look at what just happened in the settlement proposal that's on the table, that's agreed by both plaintiff and the National Association of Realtors, I think that if we are really honest with ourselves, I think we've got to say to ourselves, hey, they did a good job on this. I think that at the end of the day, the Association of Realtors in negotiating the settlement has been beneficial to the agents. Now, that being said, there's a couple other things I want to talk about. So one, write this down, you guys. I'm going to coach you for just a second here. Guys, price is only an issue in the absence of value. Write that down. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Now, I've been doing training for literally over 20 years on using literally a menu. Like, so you'll use a buyer menu, a seller menu, or a recruiting menu. I've always been a proponent of menu-driven selling. Stop telling people what you charge. Start giving them a choice. Hey, if you want these services, this is what I charge. You want these services, you're going to pay this. You want my full meal deal? This is what you're going to pay over here. Guys, I teach class on this. We've got our listing agent boot camp coming up in April in Denver, Colorado. If you're not signed up for that, you're crazy. Nicole, if you could in the comments here, in both the Zoom and in the Facebook post, if you'd be willing to put the link to that. Guys, you need to get signed up for Listing Agent Bootcamp. Let me walk you through and let our coaches walk you through how to develop a great menu, how to get people to want to do business with you. And oh, by the way, I can come here real quick. Austin, stand up. Hurry up. Come here. I got to show you this. By the way, we've got hundreds of people on right now. Look at this kid. First of all, I love the way he's dressed right now. It's his day off. Why? Because he actually takes days off. Congratulations.
Trying to.
Well, you're doing a great job, except for this webinar. But that being said, here's what I'm saying, guys. This kid right here, this kid's making more on every transaction than most of the people on this call. Do you want to know why? Because he shows people the options they have. They get to choose, and he stacks so much value on those options that more often than not, they choose his higher priced options, and they pay him more than you're making. Why? Because it was their choice and because he showed them the value. You can do the same thing, and we'll teach you how. Come to Listing Agent Bootcamp. Guys, this is a great opportunity for you to not only get more people to do business with you because you're explaining things to them that most agents won't explain, won't know how to explain, or won't do a good job explaining, and you're giving them choices. Go ahead, Saul.
Yeah, so your buyer broker contract, you're going to have a contract, and it's going to have to state how you're compensated. And that's so right. There are different ways to be compensated. You might be compensated by the hour. You might be compensated a flat fee. You might be compensated a percentage of the price, but it has to be stated, right? And so that gives, again, what the idea is, if this has to be stated, it's going to create an opportunity for negotiation. There hasn't been the opportunity, the premises, there hasn't been the opportunity for negotiation on the buy side. That's why these plaintiffs file the cases. This is going to open that up. Those people that pay attention to this are going to find opportunities to excel.
All right, Saul, I'm going to disagree with you. And I think you're going to appreciate this. And, but I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think that's why these lawsuits got filed. I don't think that has anything to do with why these lawsuits got filed. I think that was simply the vehicle that allowed them to file the lawsuit. I think it was the one thing they thought they had the best chance of getting traction on. I think the lawsuits were coming, whether we had a commission discussion or anything else. They've been looking, and you know who wins in this? It's the freaking attorneys. Those are the guys that are winning this, and they're the ones that are the problem. You know, at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to profit the most on it.
So here, I'm going to throw this out there. And so forgive me, Michael, if I'm breaching a confidence here. Go to thedataadvocate.com. That's my blog. Go to thedataadvocate.com. I believe that the reason goes beyond that. I believe that there are people, entities that benefit from the fall of organized real estate. And how does a single case like in Minnesota all of a sudden spread across the country to destroy what we've been doing for years? Who benefits if there's no multiple listing service? Google, maybe. Amazon, maybe. There's a lot to what's going on in the background. And so I wrote an article about that before the settlement.
You're right.
About 3 days before the settlement.
One of these questions, you are 100% correct on that, Saul. There's more to it than that. So it's not as simple as consumers are upset about our commissions. That's not what started this. That's not the story behind the story. All right, so let's go to some questions here. So I've been asked multiple times in the comments, hey, can we just put it in the offer instructions? Guys, I think that's a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea to say in the offer instructions, hey, if you want commission, ask for it this way. I don't think that's what you should do. I think instead what you should do is say, seller is offering X and your buyer can spend it however they want. And then you negotiate with your buyer for the commission. And if that's how they want to spend X, great, that's how they spend it. But if the seller's going to offer any concessions, make it a blanket. This is what they're offering. Again, not an attorney, but I'll tell you, if you check with your attorney and if they're worth their salt, they're going to agree with me on this.
So here's the big thing. You can't do it through the MLS.
That's right. And that's why you can't do it in the offer instructions.
Can't do it through the MLS, right? And again, this is 108 pages that, you know, you might end up selling a property for free a couple times before you figured out how you're going to do it, right?
Yeah. And by the way, again, guys, we're going to be posting that document on clubwealth.com. We're going to have a blog post put up. It'll probably take us till Monday to get this thing up, come to think of it, because a lot of my guys are off for the weekend. But on Monday, we'll make sure we've got the document up. We'll have a blog post with this video up as well. Of course, you'll see that the Facebook video will be up. We're also going to put it in Club Wealth University. We're going to make this accessible to you guys in as many ways as we can.
Hey, somebody just said, Michael, I don't work for free. Yeah,
good.
You might end up working for free because you might show a property thinking that there's a commission there and they haven't agreed to pay a commission, but you're stuck now. That's why you need a buyer broker contract. Okay,
hold on. Let's unpack that. Here's what I would suggest as a coach. And by the way, as someone who has probably sold more real estate than anyone on planet Earth that I'm aware of, here's my suggestion for you. I would meet them at the house, right? I'm a huge proponent. First one's free, then you got to pay. But here's what you do. You meet them at the house, and before you walk through that front door, you get a buyer agency agreement signed. You check their ID. You've already run them through forewarned to make sure that they're not a pedophile or some sex offender or whatever that's going to kill you and leave you on the property. And then guess what you do? You get that buyer agency agreement signed, you open the door, off to the races you go. Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to show value before you open that door. How do you do that? Show them what you do, explain the lawsuit, explain to them why it is legally necessary. It's not just you trying to force them. It's legally necessary for them to sign a document before you can open the door. Here's why. Now, which would you prefer? Option A, B, or C? You prefer option B. Great. Sign here. Fantastic. Let's go look at the house. And then I'm going to show you all the other stuff for for sale. That's how smart agents are going to proceed with this, and they're going to make a freaking killing. All right, Saul, here's some more questions. By the way, Nick Shivers, good friend of mine and Austin knows Nick as well. Saul, I know you know Nick, good friend of mine out of Portland, Oregon. Nick says, Saul, a.k.a. Yoda. And by the way, I seriously saw one of these days, you're literally going to have to paint yourself green, get the big ears, and seriously, dude, you got to do this. But he says, Saul, would you recommend implementing this immediately before July? Yes or no?
Yes or no is kind of that's a trap answer, right? So I would be looking at exactly how I want to do it. I'd talk to my broker if I work for a broker. If I'm not a broker myself, I'd talk to counsel, but I would be preparing to do that. If I'm an MLS, I would be preparing to remove the offer of compensation. If I don't use buyer broker contracts, I'd begin to use them. If that's the question, I would begin to use buyer broker contracts immediately.
That's right. And Rory says, Rory Tate Sutherland says, in my county, if it's cash transaction, there's almost no cost to the buyer. So wouldn't 80%, so 80% won't cover all the closing cost commission. So Rory, here's the deal. It's 100% cost to your buyer. I mean, at the end of the day, your buyer's paying for everything, whether they're financing or paying cash for it. It doesn't matter. They're still paying for it. And here's the good news for you, Rory. Everybody's going to have to abide by this new landscape, right? It's not just about the new rules. It's the new landscape that we're all going to have to operate within. That's good. That's going to even the playing field. And it's not going to take very long before every buyer out there understands what's going on, or at least has an idea of what's going on, which means you having the commission conversation with your buyer is going to be the norm, just like it's the norm with attorneys. What do you think happened before attorneys had retainer fees? What do you think happened for them when that switch came along, right? All of a sudden now all the attorneys, you're not getting an attorney to sign on with you unless you have a retainer with them. Well, this is the same thing. The difference is they just don't have to pay you cash up front. They just have to agree that when they buy something, they're going to make sure that you get paid, whether it's this house or a different house, and you don't care which house. You're going to show them everything that's for sale. You're going to show them what's best for them, not what's best for you. That's what we're looking for here. And when you come at it from that angle, you and they win. It's a win for everybody. This is not something to be afraid of. This is something to be excited about. I'm so excited about this. You can't even imagine. And I'm super excited that the National Association of Realtors put some indemnification in place that allows, at the very least, National Association of Real Estate Agents, National Association of Realtors members prior to 2022 to be indemnified against future lawsuits on this particular topic. Saul, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say look at who creates forms for you. In California, it's the California Association of Realtors. Most state association of realtors create the forms. I know in California we have great forms committee. They're looking at the forms, buyer broker. How are you going to make the buyer broker agreement better? And so look to your state association for the forms they're using. Learn how to use the form. The form is the tool to help you sell.
Okay, I got a great question here. I'm so excited. I love these questions, guys. I'm in the Facebook chat here. Trish Stevens Carter asks a phenomenal question. Sign calls. Buyer calls listing agent. Listing agent must show. Buyer refusal, because you've got a fiduciary responsibility seller, right? Buyer refuses to sign buyer agency agreement. We have to work for the buyer side for free, right? Are we liable from the seller's point of view? Let me give you a couple of ways you can look at this. Number one, if you are a team, my suggestion is you be a team and your buyer's agents take that call. Now, the buyer agent on your team does not represent the seller. Again, this is something you have to write particular language in your listing agreement with to ensure that your buyer agents can represent a buyer and not the seller. Very important. Talk to your broker about this. I can't stress this enough. Now, that being said, assuming we're in a place and that whether it's your association or your state or your brokerage that allows you as a buyer agent on a team to represent that buyer and not the listing agent, guess what? Buyer agent sets up an appointment, goes out there to meet them. You're going to get a buyer agency agreement signed. If they say, well, I'm not going to sign it, fantastic. I'm not going to let you in the house. I can have you work with the listing agent, but you can't do it with me. Now, when the listing agent does it, the listing agent, if they are smart, in their listing agreement said, here's the commission I'm going to charge. I'm going to charge X% commission minus, up to this much commission that you're going to pay to a buyer agent if we have to negotiate that as part of the deal. That's going to be the big change, guys, or that's going to be part of the big change. Because yes, you're going to be negotiating that, but watch this. If they are not required to pay the buyer agent as part of that negotiations up to that amount, then guess what? The listing agent might actually get to make more money. And dude, I'm telling you guys, smart agents are going to think around this problem and they're not going to get blocked by it. Saul, what are your thoughts?
But an important point there is, what if the buyer refuses to sign a buyer broker agreement? Remember that first, this will come through, if you're a realtor, if you're a member of organized real estate, you're not going to be able to show property without them. So if signing the agreement. So if they don't sign, you're not doing business with them. In certain states, and again in California, we know that there's California Association of Realtors is going to sponsor legislation to make it mandatory. So it won't be like the buyer says, I'm not signing, then I ain't showing, right? Because you're going to have to. It's going to be the law at some point in California, and it's going to be a rule to belong to the MLS. And something else that's happening, and just kind of remember with this settlement is, and it's no big deal, but it's in the settlement, and that is that if a commission is going to be paid, the party to whom you pay a commission doesn't have to be a member of an MLS.
Wait a minute. Back up. Hold on. Back up. So you're saying, so they do have to be a real estate agent, but they do not need to belong to an MLS.
They have to be a real estate licensee. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
Okay.
against the law in most states, in every state that I know of, to receive commission or compensation for the sale of property unless you're licensed. Now, it used to be, believe it or not, if someone made an offer on a property, there were brokers at one time that would ask you, are you a member of the MLS? And if you're not, I'm not paying you. Right. But you know, when I sold real estate, was active in selling real estate, I really didn't care if they're a member of the MLS. What I cared is they brought me an offer. If they brought me an offer, I was willing to, whatever compensation I had arranged, I was willing to participate and share that compensation. So there's a piece in this settlement about paying people who aren't a member of the MLS. I don't think it's a big deal. But again, this is a 108-page settlement agreement. It's got all kinds of things in it that we haven't explored yet.
This is probably more important than any of the pre-licensing education you went through. You need to read that document. That's much more important than the pre-licensing garbage you had to learn to get your freaking license. All right. Was that too transparent, Saul? I probably shouldn't speak like that.
Hey, I taught real estate principles and practices for 20 years. And what I always told people is, when people who told me you don't use the stuff that's in your real estate course, I say, if you stay in the business long enough, you're going to use it.
Some of it, yes.
I say you use it all. I say, well, I'll never use the number of feet, 43,560. I'll never use it. I say, until you go to sell some acreage, right?
I gotta tell you, I've sold a lot of acreage. I've never used it. There's calculators and apps and all kinds of stuff for that. That being said, I want to keep going. We got some great questions here. And so really, we just had, let's see, Nick, that website is clubwealth.com. Now, if you're looking for the website for the listing agent bootcamp tickets, you go to clubwealth.com/LABC. If you just want to be able to get the document that we're going to be posting there by Monday, just go to clubwealth.com and go into our blog. So you can go clubwealth.com/blog, and right in there, we'll have the blog post on this topic. We'll have this video along with all the supporting documentation behind it, including the full settlement documentation. All right. So, okay.
I just saw a question, Michael, popped up. What about commercial agents? They're not licensed. Anybody who earns compensation for the sale, the rental, the lease of real estate has to be licensed to earn that compensation. Commercial agents, all the commercial agents I know are licensed.
So on the mortgage side, they don't need to be licensed. That may be the question that they're having. So you're not required on the mortgage side to do commercial mortgages, does not require does not require a mortgage license, but to do residential mortgage does. So there is a little bit of a difference there. All right. So that being said, let's move forward. Ryan says, I just thought about it. What about super lockboxes? Are they going to have to open up the app and now everyone can access them? So go ahead, Saul.
Well, first of all, there are two major lockbox companies. Super is one of them. Century Locks is the other. So it just depends on the MLS that you belong to. And so far, I actually had dinner with Super reps here in San Diego 3 nights ago, and there's no talk of that. So the rules around showing, again, the big change is you got to have a contract with the buyer to show them property. That's where it's headed.
And that's going to happen for the listing agent too. Now, let me tell you again, another place where I think that teams that have strong listing agents are going to benefit from this, right? Let's say, for example, that buyer won't sign a buyer agency agreement with the buyer agent that goes out there to show the property. The listing agent, now, Saul, this is something I think that may end up having to get vetted in the courts. So it'll be very interesting to see how this goes. But listing agent goes out there to show that house. Buyer says, I don't even want to sign a contract with you. Then listing agent, if at that point they say, well, I'm not protected here, I'm not going to open this door unless you sign a buyer agency agreement with me. Is that permissible? Or would that be a violation of the fiduciary responsibility to the seller?
Well, so it's going to be real interesting to see how that shakes out, because remember, if you're the listing agent, you already got a fiduciary duty to the seller, and you have to try to sell that property. And if there's no compensation paid on the other side, what this could end up, an unintended consequence of this is it could drive, because I don't want to be working with the buyer on the buy side if I'm the listing agent without probably operating as a dual agent, because I don't want people to come back to me later say I thought you represented me. So this could actually drive, at least initially, more dual agency than people believe.
I 100% agree with that. I think that's a very, very likely, not just possible, but likely unintended consequence. All right. Now, another question. So let's back up on this appraisal question really quick, because I saw a comment earlier that, well, what if, in fact, I think this was Francine, or here was Ryan Lawley. Ryan's one of our coaching clients. Ryan says, hey, I've had a lot of low appraisals in the last couple of years. Baking compensation in the sales price is going to increase the cost of those appraisals. It's going to increase the cost of the house, which may make it so it doesn't appraise. And so the reality, Ryan, is yes, that's very true. But the reality is those commissions are already in these transactions. And so again, the appraisers know this, the agents know this. Could it have an impact? Sure, you bet. But at the end of the day, it's happening industry wide. And so it's not going to just be on your listing or your buyer's transaction. It's industry wide. So this will work itself out fairly quickly. And, that could mean, the buyer, assuming that the seller is netting maybe a little bit more in the short run. It could be that the buyer is coming up a little bit more in the short run. It could mean that prices come up a little bit. There's a lot of unintended consequences that can come from this. And the only way we're going to know for sure what's going to happen is to allow the free marketplace to do what it does. And it'll work itself out. All you need to worry about is go get as many clients as you can, show them as much value as you possibly can, get those buyer agency and listing agreements signed, and let the chips fall where they may. Oh, and sorry, over disclose. Go ahead, Saul.
So I know, Ryan, beat Army. And here's what I would say. I would say that, again, the transaction is what generates the commission. The commission is already financed. People don't think about it that way. And then remember, there's something we call the housing finance industry. And the housing finance industry is gigantic, and loans are made, loans are sold, loans are packaged, mortgage-backed securities are created. And because there's a change in the way that people who list and sell real estate are compensated, that doesn't mean that lenders aren't going to want to make loans. That doesn't mean Fannie and Freddie aren't going to want to buy loans. That doesn't mean mortgage-backed securities are going to cease to exist, that Wall Street's going to stop putting these things together and selling them. It's all going to adjust because there's money in this for everybody.
That is 100%. I'm so glad you brought that up. The sky is not falling, guys. And it's funny because Billy McLean just asked a very similar question. He says, well, hold on. Do we now have to say, towards, when we're offering seller concessions, do we have to say towards buyers prepaids, closing costs, discount points, and transaction fee, and real estate commissions, and blah, 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 blah? No, just all allowable closing costs. Again, this is going to get worked out. The lenders do want to loan money. I'll give you a great example of this. Look at the investment loan side. So my daughter is one of the top lenders across the country. She's got the award, by the way, shout out to Madison for receiving the award for fastest consistent closing times from United Wholesale Mortgage. She does loans all over the country, and they gave her their one national award. I was very proud of her. Anyway, that being said, Madison used to do a lot of retail loans. It was, there was a lot of retail going on, but I told her when she started in this business, focus on investors. Well, guess what? She focused on investors. Now she's doing a ton of DSCR loans. I mean, she can do the vanilla loans too, but watch this. What's happened in the last 5 months? In the last 5 months, because the retail market has dried up a lot, guess where the money's been? It's been on the investor loans. So guess what lenders have done? They have made DSCR loans and investment property loans super attractive, more so than ever before. We've even seen times where DSCR loan, that's debt service coverage ratio loans, interest rates have been lower at times, not for long periods, but for short periods of time. We've seen them even be lower than traditional conforming investment property loans. So what I'm saying here is Lenders are going to find a way to loan money. They're in the business of making money. They can't make money if they can't loan money. They're not going to allow this to stop them from being able to write loans. Don't worry about that. It's going to be fine. All right. I'm so excited. What a great conversation, Saul. You guys are asking great questions. We're going to keep up. How do I see this moving forward with new home subdivisions? Saul, I'll let you address that one. Go ahead.
Well, new home sub, that's kind of interesting. People are dealing often directly with the principal, the developer. But I think that if they're not a member of the National Association of Realtors, the state association, a local association, they're not going to be too much change in that area, at least initially. But remember, what we're looking at is legislation at the state level, and that's where you might see some change with new homes.
Also, I would consider this. Think about builders this way. When the market's really, really good, builders don't even offer compensation to real estate agents. They're like pound sand. We're selling it in-house. We don't need you guys. And then when the market tightens up, all of a sudden they want to be your freaking best friend. All of a sudden, they're not only offering compensation, all of a sudden now they're doing car washes, barbecues. They're offering all kinds of incentives to you guys just to get you to come to their freaking subdivision. Well, guess what? That's the reality of the free marketplace, right? At the end of the day, if the market's tight, they're going to find a way to work with outside agents. They're going to find a way to make that possible.
Yeah, and this proposed settlement doesn't preclude sellers from paying compensation, principals from paying. It stops it from being done through the MLS.
That's right. That's correct. Okay, now let's go to Dave Woodson. I freaking love my good friend Dave Woodson. Shout out to Dave. And he's been a longtime coaching client at Club Wealth. He asks, how is this going to affect open houses? Saul, this is a great question. What do you think?
Well, so the open house dilemma is a buyer comes unescorted. If they're escorted, it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect it. It's only going to be the unescorted, and that's where it's going to be, well, if I'm the listing agent, do I have to have a contract with the buyer before I show them the house? Or because I represent the seller, can I show them the house even though I don't have a contract with them yet? And so that's going to shake out. But I would admit, and then that could end up forcing dual agency that we talked about, right? So it's only open house. Kind of think about this. If I'm working with a buyer, I got to get a contract. Then I can take them out and show them anything. It's the unescorted. I say unescorted by an agent.
Well, not only that, Saul, I think it also complicates the seller agent relationship, listing agent relationship, in terms of if that listing agent is holding that house open, there's a disclosure element here that, hey, I represent the seller, right? Now, I would suggest that, again, this is where I think teams have such a huge advantage. And you guys, look, we coach solo agents as well, and we love our solo agent clients, and we love helping you guys succeed. I'm just saying it's going to be easier for teams, because teams, they're not going to have their listing agents holding out those houses open. They're going to have the buyer agents holding those houses open. And so the buyer agent can represent that buyer, whereas the listing agent would not be able to. But guess what? Guess who's going to have the opportunity to have those hold those homes open? It's going to be the buyer agents that are on teams first, because team leaders are going to give those opportunities first to their buyer agents on their team, and then maybe to outside agents if none of their buyer agents want to hold it open. So there's an argument to be made, again, that being on a team is going to help you navigate this if you're not already on a team.
So here's the standard practice that is a result of this proposed settlement a year from now will be the answer.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so let's see. Saul mentioned this in passing earlier. Oh, and this is such a great question. Patrick, my good friend from Oregon, asked this. Or no, it's Patrick Krause. Oh, not Patrick. Okay, Patrick, this is a great question. Saul mentioned this in passing earlier, but what about hourly compensation? Do you see that becoming more prevalent?
Do I? I see it as an option. I see now what you've got is more arrows in your quiver that you can expose, right? Where you can say, hey, you have to compensate me, and these are the different ways that people are compensated today. And I'll lay them out for it. Now, I only do it this way, or I'll do it any number of ways. And I can tell you that back in the 1980s, I did a seminar there's a company called Learning Annex, and I did how to buy your first home. And then really the course was how to buy your first home from me, right? So it was how to buy your first home. People would pay $28 or something. They would come to this course. I would teach them about fiduciary duty and being represented in real estate transactions, and then and I'd actually state to them, this is the way we can do business. I work by the hour, and I had a form, and you had to put up a retainer. And then if I took you out and showed you property, whatever I did with you, I charged you by the hour. And then another way was I charge you a flat fee. And by the hour and flat fee, didn't matter whether or not you bought something, I got paid. And the third way was the traditional way. And the percentages were so skewed, like 90% of the people, even though they could have saved money paying me by the hour or paying me a flat fee, they chose the traditional way, because if they didn't buy something, they didn't have to pay anything. So I offered them three different, here's the ways in which I will work with you. And in two of these ways, you pay me whether or not we close. And in the last way, you pay me based on closing. And most people opted. So will this result in more? I think it should create more conversation around it. But remember, people typically opt for contingency purchase, right? That's what they're going to probably opt.
Generally speaking, the public is not going to want to pay up front for the service. They're going to want to pay at closing, if at all. And now that being said, I'm from Washington State, and we see a lot of these new business models start in Washington State. Heck, Zillow started in Washington State. And so, as I look at this, I think, you're going to see a lot of other businesses crop up that are going to test out these different models. This is going to open up the door for a lot of newbies to enter the marketplace. But that being said, I wouldn't worry about it. Again, I think that this is the victory is going to go long-term to the agents that educate themselves, that are passionate about this, that set expectations properly, that get those buyer agency agreements and listing agreements signed, that use a menu-driven sales process, and that show that value from start to finish. All right, now we got more questions. And by the way, these are great questions, guys. So if the buyer is going FHA and they need 3% seller concessions, and the seller wants 3%, and that'd be a total of 6%. Now the seller only wants to pay 5%. Now the buyer agent will only get 2%, and I don't want that. I want to make more than that, and that could make or break a deal. So here's the thing. Again, at that point, this is going to come down to your ability to negotiate your commission and show the value. Now, here's what you have to understand. If you got your buyer agency agreement signed ahead of time, and if the seller is unwilling to pay whatever amount you feel you should be making, whatever amount you have in contract with your buyer, then yes, the deal could fall apart. And if you're a strong agent, if it were me, I would be very clear with my buyer. If you want this transaction, you either have to pay me, or we have to get the seller to pay it. And if the seller's unwilling to pay it and you're unwilling to pay it, you don't get to buy that house. That's just the way it is. Go ahead, Saul.
Yeah, I would say, or somebody might do it for less, and the client might say, well, I'm not willing to compensate you for that amount. And so you say, okay, great, I'm not doing business with you. And if they can't find anybody else to represent them, then they might deal with you. But there might be someone else out there that's willing to do it for less than you. And that's part of what they're trying to accomplish here, right?
Okay, but Saul, hold on now. But if I've got a buyer, just like a listing agreement, right? We're talking about listing buyers, talk about your class listing buyers, right? If I have a buyer agency agreement with a buyer and it says you have to pay me X% no matter what, and that buyer, the seller on that transaction doesn't want to pay it, that buyer can't just go get another agent. They're obligated. They're contractually tied to me at this point.
So my buyer agent contracts used to say that here's what I charge. I charge this amount. I'm going to get it from the seller. If I don't get it from the seller, what I don't get from the seller, you pay for, and that was in my contract.
That's correct. That was the way mine read. Yeah, that's right. And so again, in a situation like that, they're obligated. They can't just go to another agent. And if they try and go to another agent to buy that property, they're going to be on the hook for a commission for you one way or the other.
Now, So now you can be creative about this. Depends on how much money they have. Depends on whether they might be looking for other properties. Depends on how many people they know and what their network is. And so you might be willing to step back in your commission for concessions later. Remember, it's all up to you. You're in business for yourself or your broker, right? That you have to, but this is an entrepreneurial business, right? There's a lot of things we do. There are a lot of times I was willing, I don't care what people say, there's a lot of times I was willing to discount commissions because I figured out I would make more doing something else, or as a part of this lifelong relationship that I was building. So I was willing to step back on, and it's up to you. It's your business.
Hey, by the way, before I forget, I'm going to comment on this. I want to go to Jenny Weimert's comment. I can never pronounce your name right. Is it Weimer or Wemmert? I think it's Wemmert. But dude, she's one of the OGs in real estate. We're going to get to her comment in just a second. Before we do, I got to throw a little commercial in there, guys. Let me just save you guys some freaking headache and money here real quick. By the way, most of you on your insurance, you guys either don't have insurance or you're paying way too much for it. My wife and I, we literally just saved over $1,200 a month on our insurance. And we were able to, instead of just covering the two of us, we're now able to cover, it's Weimer. That's right. Thank you, Jenny. Now we're able to cover my wife, myself, my son, my daughter, and my son-in-law all for $1,200 less per month than we were covering just the two of us. Guys, if you're interested in learning how to do that, put healthcare in the chat and I will reach out to you and I'll show you how we did it. And oh, by the way, just like EXP and I'm sorry, what are some of the brokerages? Epic and Real and some of these network marketing type brokerages. This particular product is a network marketing thing. So when you share it with somebody else, you get paid on it. I mean, dude, it's awesome. I'm making way more on it now than I'm paying for my healthcare, way more actually. In fact, it's a big part of our go forward plan. So if you're interested in learning how you can save a ton of money on your healthcare, type healthcare into the chat. And actually do it in the Facebook chat if you can, so I don't lose it, guys. All right, and you can, if otherwise you can do it to everyone in here. Just don't do it privately in here because otherwise I'll lose it.
Somebody asked, Michael, somebody asked open house. And again, it's premature. It's early yet. Remember that we're not going to see changes until mid-July. That's a couple months off. So if you work for a broker, talk to your broker. If you're working for yourself, talk to your attorney counsel about this. And because there are some dilemmas that get created in an open house environment.
That's right. All right, I want to come back to Jenny Weimert's comment. Hold on, I got to find out. There it is. And Jenny makes a very, very good point, you guys. Home sellers can still pay commissions at closing. It just can't be offered in the MLS, right? Again, they want us to get away from the offer of compensation. And the reason why is because they don't want people selectively showing houses based on which house is going to pay them the most commission. Again, guys, I don't think that, and we're not going to go deep into this right now, but if we're being very honest with ourselves, a lot of this is not about the consumer. Everybody's saying it's about the consumer. That's not really what it's about. This is just one more way for the powers that be, if you will, to come after the real estate industry, for attorneys to make a few bucks in the process, and for them to decentralize what they can decentralize. At the end of the day, it's not about lowering commissions. It's not about, making the cost of housing more affordable, because let's face it, saving a point or two on agent commissions is not making housing more affordable in America. It's not going to change whether or not mom and pop can get into their first freaking house. It's not about that. So we got to look beyond this, guys. Let's be smart about this. Okay. All right. Now
somebody just add that the cases themselves, Sitzer Burnett in Missouri, Merrill in Illinois, New England, MLS Pin No Select, that case. Those three major cases, which now have expanded to like 50 cases across the country. The argument really is by the plaintiff that they were not able to negotiate the commission on the buy side. What they said was, here's what happened. My agent took the listing and said, here's how much it cost, and I'm going to split the commission. And I really didn't get to negotiate. There was no negotiation on the buy side. Yeah, I know I agreed to it. Yeah, I knew the coffee was hot when I bought it, right? I knew that, but I didn't really understand that. And now I realize I wasn't able to negotiate the commission, and I really didn't have to pay that. No, by the way, the market's been hot as hell for a number of years now. So why should I have to pay all of that commission? And so that's the beef, right? Is there was no ability to negotiate the commission on the buy side. Now, where did they come up with the $5 billion settlement? Actually, in that case, that was a judgment. Where did the $5 billion judgment? It was really a $1.83 billion judgment because it was antitrust. It was tripled to $5 billion. Where did the $1.83 billion judgment amount come from? It's math. The jury said in the last 4 years, there were this many houses that sold. And that many sales, there was 3%, we use as an example, 2.5, whatever number, on the buy side that the seller really shouldn't have had to pay. So if you multiply that 3% by all the transactions in the state, in these MLSs over the last 4 years, that comes up to $1.83 billion. That's where the number came from, right?
Yep. All right. So that being said, Brandon asked a great question. Brandon Gibson says, well, would this outcome create situations where agents are told not to show them homes where they would have to pay the buyer agent side? And I'm going to suggest, Brandon, that the answer is no. And I'll tell you why. Could it? Maybe, but not really. And the reason is because you're not going to know that ahead of time. You're not going to know if the seller's doing that ahead of time. So there's no way to segment out the properties where they're not willing to pay a buyer agent commission, because it's not going to state in the MLS whether they are or are not. It's just going to be something that you're going to negotiate as part of the offer that you make for your buyer. And so and by the way, that's a big part of their argument, whether it's the reason or not, it's part of their argument as to why this case is important.
And you're actually, Mike, you're actually going to negotiate that with the buyer. Correct. Before you show them anything.
That's right.
Right.
That is exactly right. Gosh, these are great questions. I'm really enjoying your questions, you guys. And so I'm trying to get through them. I'm 50, 60 questions behind right now. So I got a lot more questions I'm answering here. So just give us a second. We're going to get to you. And so, Austin, where are you going? Don't you be leaving. You're staying right here. You got to get to that appointment. Hang on 1 second, guys. Hang on, here we go. All right. So that being said, let's go to, let's see. The transaction pays the commission. The buyer gets the loan to buy the home. Without the loan, the seller doesn't get the money. So you can say it gets paid by both. There's argument all the time over who really pays it. At the end of the day, no matter how you slice it, the buyer's paying for the commissions anyway, because they're
I think it's both. I mean, you're right. It's both. It's the transaction. If you don't have a seller, you don't have a property, there's no sale, there's no commission. If you don't have a buyer, there's no loan, so there's no commission. So it's the transaction. We're hung up in nomenclature, right? And the fact is, you need them both.
Well, and Francine asks, well, so now do we need to contact the listing agent to see if they're paying a commission? No, Francine, you just write in what you want in your offer, and it either gets accepted or it doesn't. But you don't call ahead of time, because if you call ahead of time, you're doing exactly what they're trying to get you not to do.
Yeah, actually, you put it in your buyer-broker agreement.
That's correct.
That's the first place.
Well, it starts in the buyer-broker agreement, but it shows up after you've got your buyer-broker agreement signed. Then it's also included in your offer. The problem is, if you call the listing agent ahead of time and say, hey, are you offering a buyer agent commission on this? What if they say no? Are you not going to show that now? Now you're guilty of violating your fiduciary responsibility to your buyer. Do not play that game. You want to stay safe? You've got to show your buyer every house that's for sale. And you've got to negotiate your commission up front with your buyer before you even go show them the first one. That's the smart play here, okay? Great questions. Oh, I love these questions. All right, let's go to, and by the way, Nicole, I think you've got the right Facebook link in there. If you guys are having trouble getting to the Facebook link, try the one that Nicole just put in there. And yes, and Ryan, somebody's asking, why do I got to go to the Facebook link? Ryan has a great, says it well, because Michael wants to drive traffic and exposure to social media. Yeah. And not only that, but I'm going to be able to go back and answer questions later. If I don't get to your question now, I'll be able to go back into the Facebook feed and I'll be able to reply to your question and answer the question there.
So Mike, I'm going to throw this in here. Yeah. You and I are going to get better at this over the next 6 months.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Because we're going to read this. We're going to have conversations about it. We're going to talk. We're going to get people who experience, have different, and this is a learning experience for everybody. This is not right? Lots of this, just so much is going to happen here over the next 6 months.
Now, and I love, Ryan, we're going to talk wholesalers. Ryan Lawley asked a great question. Guys, I love this. And let me just tell you, let's have the wholesaler conversation. So Ryan says, this is just going to empower wholesalers more and diminish the role of real estate salesperson licensee. Wholesaler asks seller how much they want to net at closing, and then the wholesaler tacks on a fee of more than $3. So, far more than a 3% fee, right? And so, sorry, it's far more. So here's the question. Does this help wholesalers? No, I don't think this helps wholesalers more than it helps a real estate agent. I just think it provides for greater transparency across the board, particularly on the real estate agent side. And what it's going to do, Ryan, let's call it what it is. It's going to cause a lot of weak agents to go away. Good. Because guess what? Those weak agents, they're just mucking up this industry for the rest of us. You know what? If you would have asked real estate agents when National Association of Realtors does their surveys every year, one of the questions they ask is what agents think are the biggest problems in the industry. And you know what they always come back with? Incompetent agents. It's incompetent agents dismissed. You want to get, and by the way, you guys have been asking for this for years. You want to get rid of the incompetent agents? This is one of the ways to do it. Hallelujah. Because getting rid of the incompetent agents, guess what? Maybe we can finally, as an industry, be judged as being more professional than we have been, because so far, up till now in the world, we've been looked at as beneath used car salespeople and attorneys in professionalism. Guys, if you want to be looked at like a professional, this is a great way to get there. All right. So be excited about it. Saul, any comments on wholesalers?
I would just say I'm not a fan of wholesalers. Period.
And dude, this is so funny. I love it. Melissa Marshall, did they just put a bullet in Zillow with the buyer broker agreement requirement? And honestly, Zillow's got a lot of money and they're not stupid. I'll tell you right now, they're just going to pivot like everybody else. And by the way, they've already been planning on this. I 100% promise you, they already have their contingency plan in place. They are already prepared for this. They are already pivoting.
Well, and think about this. Where does their revenue come from? Their revenue comes from people who have to do this. Right?
That's right.
They get leads, right? And then those leads go to teams and people who buy them from them. And it's those people who turn those leads into sales that have to worry about the things we're talking about today.
And Francine asked the question, okay, can the commission be added to the uploaded addendum documents in the MLS? Again, guys, no, you cannot talk about commission to the buyer's agent in your MLS. That's so. By the way, that's one of the big reasons. There's a lot of reasons why I wanted Saul to do this with me today. One of the reasons is because not only is he the OG, but let me tell you something. Saul is the president of the San Diego MLS. He is neck deep in this, and his MLS is going to be having to deal with this on the front lines. Let me tell you something, guys. This is exactly what the DOJ is. One of the things the DOJ is trying to prohibit. So it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and so the one thing that still in my mind's not clear is it's easy to say we're not going to have a box that says commission to buyer broker. That's pretty obvious. The question is, in a remark section or in a concession section, and there is some wording to that effect in the settlement. Could you say that the seller is willing to make concessions? And the answer is, as long as it's not tied to saying you have to pay a buyer broker commission.
Correct.
Possibly. But again, this is one of those things that, like, I want to talk to our counsel about this. We want to talk to brokers about this. We want to kind of figure out, what does this exactly mean? We've got a document to look at, and it hadn't been really tested yet.
Okay, so two great questions. One was, again, we covered this earlier, but I'm just going to touch on it just 2 seconds. Can we, what about VA buyers who are limited in what they could pay? The VA is already adjusting for this. FHA is going to adjust for this. Every lender in the country is going to adjust for this. And you're going to see them allow, as part of buyer paid closing costs or seller paid concessions, that you're going to see this be okay on the lending sides. They're in the business of putting deals together, and they understand that buyers aren't going to magically be able to come up with an extra, 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever percent. They're not going to be able to magically just come up with that. And so, yes, of course, they're going to find ways to finance this, because guess what? They're in the business of closing loans. Now, Kimberly also asked a great question. Kimberly Christoph asked, can we get the buyer to pay an upfront fee, like a security deposit, when they sign the contract for a buyer agency agreement? Let me tell you something about a friend of mine, a guy named Curtis Johnson, one of the smartest guys in this industry. I've known Curtis for, 20 plus years. And Curtis, for decades, has been charging an upfront fee, a retainer fee, to buyers and sellers when they and it was a lot. I'm not going to tell you how much it is, because I don't want to get into the commission discussion. But what I will tell you is that at the end of the day, absolutely, it's permissible to charge that. And it, again, is going to, it's like Saul was discussing earlier, there's going to be a lot of new models that are going to come out. I would love nothing more than to see this entire industry go to an upfront retainer fee for both buyers and sellers. I think that it would be a lot more professional, and I think that this is one of the things that could cause that to happen for a lot more agents and consumers. Saul, anything on that?
Yeah, no, I actually charged a retainer fee. Part of my practice was charging a retainer fee.
Yeah.
And a great book on single agency and charging retainer fees and representing buyers, an old book from the 1980s, Secrets of a Lucrative Real Estate Career. It's all about real estate counseling. And in counseling, you can charge a fee up front. Then if in fact you're paid a commission through the sale, it offsets whatever hourly fee you're going to charge. There are different ways to charge for real estate services. What the MLS has done, according to these complaints and these lawsuits, is it perpetuated commissions being at a certain level. And what they believe at this point is they've come up with a way to create negotiation, transparency, things that the plaintiffs and the plaintiffs' attorneys believe didn't exist before. Whether or not that's true doesn't really matter at this point to us. What we want to do is find the opportunity that's there for people who list and sell real estate.
Yeah, this is, by the way, this conversation is about to get even more interesting. You guys are gonna like this. Paul Kurowitz asked, well, can we use other ways besides the MLS to tell buyer agents the commission we are offering? And the answer, Paul, is no, absolutely not. Because again, if prior to them coming out and showing the property, you are offering them an incentive to show your property or other people's properties, it is possible that that agent might then choose to show yours instead of somebody else's, and could very well be violating their fiduciary responsibility with their buyer by not showing those other properties that might have been better for the buyer than the one. Now, does that put you in a legal problem? Probably not, but would it put that buyer agent in a legal problem? Very likely. So again, this is a problem that I think we're going to see surface. And I think that there's going to always be those people that try and find that way around the law. And I think those are the ones you got to be careful because they're going to put you and others at risk. Saul, what are your thoughts?
So sellers and listing agents can offer concessions to buyers agents. They just can't do it through the MLS.
That legally, that's correct currently. But the problem is, by doing so, if a buyer agent sees that offer of compensation and shows that house before they show these ones over here, because there's not an equal or greater offer of compensation over here, that again puts us back in the exact same problem we started off.
That's part of the reason that you have to have a buyer agent contract, and it needs to specify your compensation in it.
That's right.
And if that's the case, it doesn't matter.
Yes, I agree. Yes. So Paul, lots to unpack here. All right, let's keep going. So I've got, and somebody's asking on the health sharing or the healthcare, do you have to be part of it in order to get the healthcare? And the answer is no, you don't have to sell it or share it with other people to be able to take advantage of the low rates. You can just, if you guys want to save it, and for those of you that missed it earlier, if you want to save, like my family has, if you want to save just a ton of money on your healthcare, the health insurance industry is out of control. If you guys want to share, save a bunch of money on that, type in healthcare into the chat on Facebook, and I will reach out to you privately and I'll explain what it's all about. I'll give you a link to a call that you can jump on and you can hear all about it. But no, you don't have to share it with others in order to take advantage of the discounts. The discounts are there for anybody that wants them. And what's really cool is, even for people that are here in the country that just have an ITIN, right? They're not even citizens. They can even participate in it. So I think for all these immigrants that have been coming in, I think it's going to be a great opportunity. All right, let's go to compensation offered outside in a different portal we just covered. Dave Woodson, very good. So you're going to like this, Saul. Dave Woodson says, beware of special shoppers from your state calling to shop you to make sure you're saying the right thing, making sure you're getting that buyer agency agreement signed. Let me tell you something, guys. I know of an agent, a very good agent, by the way, someone who's been in this industry for a very long time, consistently closing over 500 transactions a year, who got secret shopped by someone. And they basically went after this agent saying that they were being discriminatory because they responded faster to a white person than they did to a black person. Guys, it was super ridiculous. The guy was on an airplane during the period of time when, from the time that the black person submitted their request to the time that he responded, and he wasn't able to respond because he was on an airplane. But guess what? He still got dinged. He still had to go through that lawsuit. So Dave, do I think that it's possible that you're going to have secret shoppers come through and they're going to make sure you're using the right language and that you're getting things signed? Absolutely. Saul, what do you think?
Well,
I know. I'm just getting this.
Oh, hang on one second. I've got somebody, I'm hearing some voice in the background there. I'm going to hit mute on that. Saul, you'll have to unmute again. Go ahead.
Yeah, the DOJ works with the FTC. The policeman the Federal Trade Commission, right? And so, yeah, I believe that there probably will be some mechanism that's in place to at least create the look of compliance, and then how much will it actually be? It wouldn't surprise me at all. Just like we used to have, I owned a property management company for years, and there were testers, we called them, right? That would call in on ads that we ran, and testing for housing discrimination. So, likewise, I think here you very well could see something like that.
Well, and then Wesley takes it a step further. And Wesley, I think you've got a great comment here. He says he can see buyer agency agreements becoming a potential lawsuit when you have agents that are using buyer agency agreement for some, but making an option for others. And I'll tell you right now, I would, if it were me, I would make it mandatory across the board in my practice. If you're a buyer and you want to work with us, you have a buyer agency agreement. We don't show anything without a buyer agency agreement. I would just have and if it's not that, whatever you do, have a set of guidelines that you follow and make it the exact same thing every single time. Saul, would you agree on that?
Absolutely. And you're going to need to have it's going to be required that you have a buyer agency agreement or a buyer representation agreement, a buyer broker contract, whatever we end up calling it.
But I would suggest, let's take that a step further though, because what if, you can't, and I think back to Wesley's point, Wesley, you're very intelligent to be thinking about it from this standpoint. I feel like if you have, like, let's say you charge one person differently than the other, it better be as a direct result of your menu of services. In other words, you pay this if you want my plan A, this for plan B, this for plan C. And at the end, so we call it basic standard premium. But at the end of the day, regardless of which plan you're on, you're going to get the services outlined in that plan and you're going to pay this for it, as is every other one of my clients. I think where you will get into problems, particularly with discrimination issues, and I'll tell you what, I've seen the NAACP come after people for this stuff. It might be the FTC. It could be any number of organizations or private citizens or simply an attorney. But I'll tell you, if you're not applying your guidelines equally across the board for everybody, I think you're at risk. And I think you need to be very careful about that.
Yeah, we used to create what we called a menu of services, right? And we looked at a real estate transaction. We said in a real estate transaction, a real estate relationship, you got educate, negotiate, locate, educate, locate, negotiate, close. Those four things, right? Educate, locate or market, negotiate, and close. And in each of those four areas, if you pulled out your last 10 transactions and you started listing things, you'd find lots of different things that you do in a real estate transaction. And you list those out, and all of a sudden they become your value proposition. And then you charge for that, however you charge. You segment it and charge, but you're consistent. You're right, Mike. You're consistent in how you charge.
We will be teaching this at Listing Agent Bootcamp for those of you that are coming. And by the way, ticket prices go up this coming week. And so if you haven't got your ticket yet, get your ticket now. globalwealth.com/LABC. A lot of the agents on this call are going to be, a lot of our coaches who are on this call are going to be teaching at that event. But we teach menu-driven selling at that event. And I'll tell you right now, it is the reason why, or it's one of the reasons why, in his first year selling real estate, my son Austin made over $700,000. His second year, he made over $970,000. And by the way, why he's listing consistently over 100 homes a year? Why is he able to do that? The menu of service, besides his habits, the menu of services is one of the things that enables him and other agents like him to make more money on more listings and more buyer sides. Why? Because they're spelling it out ahead of time. They're setting proper expectations. And guess what? People are not unhappy about paying you. They just want to know what the value is that they're getting in return for what they're paying you. All right. Jenny Weimer asks, Saul, I'm going to put this one to you. What are your thoughts on clear cooperation?
So this doesn't affect clear cooperation at this point. That's all I'll say. Forget it for a second. Clear cooperation is a separate entity all in and of itself. And there will be some spillover effect, but there's too much to look at to try to tie this one to clear cooperation at this point, right? There could be some impact, but I'm still trying to figure out this one.
And by the way, this is a great comment from Josiah Beam. Says listing agents should still advise their clients to be willing to negotiate a buyer agent commission. Wouldn't you say? This is awesome. This is one of the things you need to hear loud and clear. Wouldn't you agree with that, Saul? That listing agents should be setting expectation for the sellers that, hey, look, here's the deal. We're not allowed to offer it in the MLS anymore, but you need to be prepared that when another agent brings a buyer, they're probably going to ask for a commission. And here's kind of the range you might expect. Would that be an appropriate conversation with a seller?
It's going to be the standard, isn't it?
Yep.
Pretty much every offer that comes in, unless you believe that buyers are going to pay for it out of their own pockets, every offer that's going to come in is going to ask the seller to pay the commission. And if it asks the seller, so you got to prepare the seller for the way this is going to work. And that's when the true negotiation comes in, because now the seller might be willing to pay the commission, but maybe not at the price offered.
That's correct.
Right.
That's
and
right.
So there's going to be this give and take.
It's going to be an interesting ride. Now watch this. Tasha Carden brings up a very good question. And she says, where do we list the buyer agent compensation on an offer legally? Tasha, let me tell you how I've done it for years. I'm going to give you the exact language I use. And I'm going to tell you that this is the language that I'm going to recommend for you. You'll want to run this by your broker and or your attorney. Write this down. I'm going to give you the exact verbiage. Okay. Everybody grab a pen, write this down. I'll give you a second to grab your pen. All right, here we go. Seller agrees to pay selling office a commission of blank in order to satisfy buyer's commission obligation under existing buyer agency agreement. I'm going to give it to you again. Seller agrees to pay buyer's agent a commission of blank, or you could call it buyer agent or selling office, a commission of blank in order to satisfy buyer's commission obligation under existing buyer agency agreement. Now notice there's a lot of components here that are very important. I'm going to give it to you one more time. Seller agrees to pay selling office a commission of blank in order to satisfy buyer's commission obligation under existing buyer agency agreement. Now, again, run that language by your attorney, run it by your broker. And Saul, what are your thoughts on that? Would you agree that that language would probably be appropriate?
Here's what I would, for me, I'm a California real estate broker, and I belong to the California Association of Realtors. And at CAR, we create the best forms. And you've got practitioners. These are volunteers. These are people that volunteer their time to create the documentation along with the best real estate attorneys in the state. So if you're practicing in California, look at the California package for representing buyers, and they'll give you and between now and July, they're going to change. Right?
And so, Saul, to your point, first of all, yes, they are going to change. Second of all, guys, in whatever market you're in, always look to your state and or local association forms first. The language I just gave you, if your state is behind there, let's call it what it is. There are some states and some associations, some MLSs that are kind of archaic on their forms and are way behind on this. And frankly, it's probably because not enough people are volunteering to help out. And so maybe you could be one of those. But in a situation like that, I would recommend that language. Now, Felicia Marchetti asks a great question. I've had a lender tell me that if I couldn't use my buyer agreement that my buyer had agreed to and signed, they told me the deal wouldn't close if I did. It wasn't a high one either. So Felicia, here's what I'm going to suggest. Send me a direct message or comment in the post here. Michael, have Madison reach out to me. I will get you in contact with my daughter. She brokers to over 200 different lenders, and she's in every state except for New York, Massachusetts, and South Carolina. Let me tell you right now, my daughter will get that deal closed. Your lender sucks. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. Good lenders will, good brokers will find a lender that will get that deal closed. There's no reason why you can't close that deal. That's terrible advice from a loan officer. So don't let that stop you from getting that deal closed. I'm really glad you commented on that. All right, Jenny Weimer again. I love Jenny. I love you, Jenny. When I say you're the OG, I'm not even kidding, man. Jenny has closed more real estate than most people will ever see in their lives. She says that that book is on Amazon for $103 as a collectible, Saul. She's talking about that's hilarious. Amazon's like, yeah, we'll reprint that book for that one person that's ordered it in the last decade. That's hilarious. All right. Lisa asks, and this is what Saul and I were talking about offline. Could this be just another way for the government to change our industry from independent contractors to employee-based brokerages? Go ahead, Saul.
So here's a great point. They always try to do that for a number of the government always tries to. And in California, we're confronting this again. And the Uber drivers, and we had this proposition and the independent contractors in a recent election. And yes, and the California Association of Realtors is fighting right now to help people who list and sell real estate maintain independent contractor status. My belief is that will probably go away at some point. The forces are so strong for so many different reasons. So here's another reason, Michael, to support your local, state, national Association of Realtors, because the reason there are carve-outs that allow you to remain an independent contractor is because of these organizations.
That's right. Yeah, so support them at the end of the day. Cassie Webb asked a great question, and we've kind of covered this, but I'm gonna. In fact, we have covered this, but in a different way. I'm gonna cover it a little bit more specifically for you. What if asking about the agent compensation is at the buyer's direction to prefer properties already offering compensation? First of all, there's not going to be properties offering compensation anymore in the MLS. It's not going to be allowed, and so that's not going to be an issue. Now, does the buyer have the right to ask? Of course, they have the right to ask. They can have the right to ask you whatever they want to ask you. That doesn't mean you're going to do it. And that doesn't mean that you can, or that there's a mechanism for you to do it. And so, but yeah, just like any other concern, the age of the roof, et cetera. So at the end of the day, Cassie, you're not going to have to worry about that question because MLSs are not going to be posting offers of compensation going forward. And again, this is going to take a few months for it to shake out, but and by the way, this is all under the assumption that the judge is going to sign off on the deal. It is still possible. There is, and by the way, I guarantee there's somebody from the state, from the feds on this webinar right now. I 100% guarantee somebody is watching us right now, listening to us because they want to see how the industry is reacting to this. 100% dude, with the hundreds and hundreds of people we've had on this call, guarantee that's happening. That being said, here's what I will tell you. It's going to take a while to shake out. It's more than likely going to happen. It's more than likely that the judge is going to sign off on this agreement between both parties because it makes sense for everybody involved, including and especially the consumers. So it'd be very hard for the judge to say otherwise. That being said, you will not need to worry about how do I figure out which properties are offering compensations and which ones aren't. In fact, the exact opposite. You shouldn't even be thinking about that. Saul, go ahead.
Yeah, I know you're absolutely right. So get back to it's critical, and it's going to be required that you have a contract with the buyer. It's going to state how much you're compensated and probably how you're compensated, and then it'll probably be included in the offer to purchase that you make. Right? So you're not going to go out ahead of time and look for properties that offer a certain compensation. You're going to decide what you work for and under what terms you're willing to work, and that'll be in your buyer broker agreement. And then the asking for the compensation will take place in the offer.
Yeah, and that comes back, I'm seeing multiple questions about this. I'm not going to answer each one of these questions about the same thing because we've covered it at length. But at the end of the day, guys, like, Javier, you're asking about, what if a buyer understands and agrees that you're only going to show them the ones that offer compensation? Again, that's not going to be a thing, guys.
You're not going to agree to that.
Correct. That's
exactly right. Agree to only show them properties where there's an offer of compensation. You're going to show them everything and ask for the compensation to be covered. And if it's not, that's where the part of this negotiation comes in. Remember, that's the intent. The seller then might say, oh yeah, I'll pay the commission, but I'm only then going to sell it for this price. And then then the agent of the buyer might then have to negotiate with the buyer. This is all about negotiating commissions.
That's right. Austin, I want you to listen particularly carefully to this next part. Guys, this is another question that has not really been asked yet, but I really want to cover this because it's something that I think could get a lot of people in trouble. And Janelle asks a question that, Janelle, I do not want you to ever ask in any of the Facebook groups or anything like that. I don't ever want any of you guys having this conversation, especially in our, in the Club Wealth Facebook group. Or in any other venue publicly. It should be discussed between your broker and you only. She asks, well, what if the deal starts to fall apart during the transaction because the buyers don't have enough money to pay the commission and you've got a buyer agency agreement signed? Would you cut your commission? The would you cut your commission part of that is the part you should never ask in public. Don't ever ask another agent that. That is a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act because you are having conversation amongst competitors about commissions. I'm going to tell you right now, whether you decide to cut your commission in that scenario or not is completely up to you. It's going to be handled differently by every agent. You should never, ever, ever, ever collaborate with another agent on what they would do in that situation. Just like you would never want to collaborate with other agents on what they charge, what you charge, or what anybody else charges. It is and she just deleted the question. It was a great question. I'm really glad you asked the question here because it's a safe space because Saul and I are here and we know how to handle that without getting anybody in trouble. But at the end of the day, be very careful, you guys, about ever talking to agents about specifics about how they would handle commission situations. Saul, anything to add to that?
Yeah, remember the intent is, and part of this big story is real estate commissions are too high. That's the whole conversation. They're too
Well,
high. So the
let's back up.
intent,
That's what the other side thinks. I
right.
think they're too low. I
No.
think you guys should get paid more. And
Yeah.
I think if you're smart, you will get paid more, and I will teach you how. But guess what? You're only going to get paid more if you show the value.
And it doesn't matter what you think. Here's what the intent is. The
That's
intent is to drive it down. So all
Yeah.
these questions about is there going to be, are people going to ask me? That's the intent. The intent is negotiation. The premise is there was no negotiation before. Even though we said commissions are negotiable, the conversation and the lawsuits were about it's not practically happening. And so now we're going to change the structure so it happens. So a byproduct, actually the intended byproduct of this is that those kinds of questions come up. Will you cut your commission? That's exactly what the intention is, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you don't want to do that, you got to figure out how to create the value proposition that convinces the party to pay you what you're asking to be paid.
By the way, that's 100% correct, Saul. By the way, I love that we get to have Saul on here with us because it's, guys, what a great opportunity. And the questions you guys have been asking have been phenomenal. I want to shout out really quick to Robbie Lynn Johnson, who is a longtime coach of Club Wealth and client of Club Wealth. And to Robbie, thank you for clarifying and for typing in the language that I gave for that, that you can use in your offers when you make the offer to the seller. I appreciate you putting that. If you guys haven't seen it yet, it is in the Facebook chat. And so, Robbie, thank you so much for that. Super appreciated. And oh my gosh, it's the OG again. I love it, Jenny Weimer. If we are members of the MLS, we are required to list the property within 24 hours of marketing the property to the public. Depends on which multiple you're in, Jenny, just FYI, because every multiple is a little bit different. But many of them have the 24-hour rule. We aren't allowed to market properties off market to the public. Now, again, that comes down to which MLS you're in and what that what that particular MLS's rules are. Saul, anything to add to that?
No, that's a rule of MLS, right? For typically, and there's a reason for that.
Yes.
Right? There's a reason for that. The reason is if you want competitors to cooperate with one another and to allow the sale of their listings back and forth, you have to create an environment where people follow the rules, because if there are no rules, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to withhold my good listings and try to sell them myself. No, nobody would ever do this. I'm speculating, right? So there has to be a rule for this to work. Why MLS is a miracle. It's a great thing. It creates marketplaces. It makes real estate almost liquid. We don't have it except for in North America, really. And so the beauty of it is, and what makes it work is I agree to take any listing and put it into a pool, whether it's a good listing or not a good listing, right? And so if there were not these rules, this rule in particular, maybe if I got a really good property everybody wanted, I wouldn't put it in. I'd sell it myself. I'd dual agent. I'd double end it. And so rather than allow that to happen, if we want this to be a level playing field, we're all required to put in our good and our bad.
That's right.
And if we all understand that and realize that, we all put our good and our bad in there, we trust that that's going to take place. Now we create a marketplace that's the envy of the world. MLS is a great thing. It's a miracle. Like I said, it allows that for real estate to almost be liquid. I put it in the MLS, it's sold within 30. That's real estate, which is an illiquid asset, really, but not anymore because of MLS. So that's a good rule to me.
And let me share this, Saul. I agree with you. And guys, here's the thing. Think about this. We all benefit from that, and so do the consumers. Okay, the MLS is a great tool for all of us. Now, Luigi Caprio, one of our coaches at Club Wealth, this guy has forgotten more about real estate than most of us will ever know. All right, and I just got and it's funny. I always love to go toe to toe with Luigi. He's like the nicest guy in the world, and I'm the exact opposite, I guess. But long story short, he asks, is the MLS going to be required to have it open to all buyers so they don't have to use a buyer agency agreement? Or excuse me, not a buyer agency agreement, but a buyer agent. So what if a buyer just wants to be able to get direct access to MLS without a buyer agent? Is that going to be a thing, Saul?
No. So MLS is not a public utility. MLS is, you got to pay. MLS costs money. You know, how much does it cost to have the software to allow MLS? How much does it cost to have a staff to make sure people comply with the rules? How much does it cost to have technical customer service for realtors that can't figure out, people, real estate agents who can't figure out how to put stuff in and get it the way they want, make sure their pictures appear and make sure that it costs money. It's not a public utility. And so will buyers have access to the MLS? No, not unless the government comes in and says this is a public utility and everybody should have access to it. Well, then the question is, who's going to pay for it? Because it's not free. It costs money to operate a multiple listing service.
Yep. 100% agree. Now, Jennifer asked a question similar, but a little bit different. Will private MLSs be under the same mandate? You know, essentially, will non-association MLSs be required to remove the offer of compensation?
So a couple of points here. Most of the MLSs in the country are not private. Right? Private MLSs are a handful. There's probably like a little less than 700 multiple listing services in the country. There used to be like 1,300 not that long ago. So there has been consolidation. Most of them are realtor owned and association owned. It's only a handful that are not. You know, MLS PIN, the no select case in New England, that particular MLS was a private MLS, but following the rules. Why? Because they're the best, what do they call them? Best practices, standards of operation. So they won't be. The answer is, will they be required? No,
but they're going to be putting them. Yeah.
But if in fact you got this settlement, you got people looking at it saying this is the right way to do it.
You're stupid not to, because you're putting your entire MLS at risk. You're putting every agent in your MLS at risk if you continue to offer that. And so again, that brings me to another question that nobody's asked, and I think honestly, Austin, I'm surprised you haven't asked this one. Because I think that it's super apropos for your business, especially as a heavy listing agent. Should listing agents today, knowing this settlement is coming down and knowing that it's probably going to be accepted, should listing agents effective immediately remove the offer of compensation in their listings and go, if their MLSs currently allow it, should they be changing it to 0 to further protect themselves?
So I'm not an attorney. And what I would say is talk to your attorney, but I don't see how it offers you any added protection at this point in time. The transition is taking place, right? And so talk to your broker, talk to your attorney, but will it offer added protection? Well, this settlement, if the settlement goes through, that's the protection that's there.
Well, but that's only protection for members of the Association of Realtors since prior to 2022. So for those that are either new or were never a member of the association or have not been a member of the association, they're not afforded that same protection. So what about those agents?
Yeah, again, I would talk to counsel. Like, I'm not sure how much protection that actually would offer at this point in time.
Okay, good point. I appreciate that a lot. And hang on, I'm going ahead and I'm going to stop that video there. There we go. All right, good stuff. All right, got time for just a couple more questions. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and especially your time, Saul. Man, we've been on now for what, 2 hours?
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone fast, and we've had a lot of great questions. And hey, let's call it what it is, guys. This is probably the most important video that we'll do and that we've probably done in decades. And I'm telling you, this is going to have a bigger impact on every single person in this industry's business than probably anything else that's happened in my career. And I've been doing this for 33 years. And so I would ask again, please, you guys, hit the share button on the Facebook post so we can get this video out to as many people as possible. Share it with your team members, your brokerage members, your brokers, your attorneys. Share it with everybody you can. And by the way, share it with the consumers. Let the consumers see this. Let them understand this, because the more they understand it, the easier it's going to be for you to be able to provide the value that they want and to be able to do it in a way that's going to protect you and them and get them exactly what they want, whether they be the listing or the seller or the buyer. All right, time for just these last couple of questions. How is it going to impact referrals? We've had a couple of people ask that. This is the first chance to answer it. So is it going to impact referrals, Saul?
Well, I don't think there'll be any major impact on referrals. You'll still be able to ask for and receive referrals through your broker, right? That's the way it's always been. And I don't see any major impact on referrals.
Okay. And by the way, some of you may be watching this in a place that's difficult to share it. If you go to the original post, you should be able to see it. And there should be a share button. If you don't see the share button, you can hit the 3 buttons at the top of your screen, copy the link, or you could even go to your browser bar, just copy the link, and then just go post that into your feed and share it that way.
Well, let me add to the referral. Yeah. Here's how it will affect referrals. The commissions are negotiable. It could end up being a lot more variety. If the referral is based on a percentage of the commission, then that'll have an effect on that, right?
Yep. And by the way, Ryan asked a couple more quick questions. Ryan, I love your questions, brother. Thank you for being on today. I know you've been here the entire time, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate your questions. So Ryan asks, would it be possible to put liens on properties like mechanics liens or sure compensation is paid? The short answer, Ryan, is yes, of course, if you get a judgment. So in other words, let's say you have a buyer agency agreement. Again, you got to check with your attorney on this, but if you have a buyer agency agreement signed with someone, they close on that property. First and foremost, if you present that buyer agency agreement at escrow is required to honor, in other words, they cannot close that transaction if they think there's a dispute over that transaction. So that transaction probably wouldn't close to begin with. If somehow that transaction managed to close and you not have been paid according to your buyer agency agreement, then you would be required to file a lawsuit. And at that point, obtain a judgment, at which point you could put a lien on the property. But at the end of the day, if you submit this to escrow, no escrow company on the planet is going to close. Nobody that knows what they're doing is going to close that transaction if they believe there's a dispute pending. Saul, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Connecticut, is a state that actually has this. It's kind of like a mechanics lien, right? A lien for services. And look at the real estate laws in Connecticut. You might get some direction there.
And by the way, this also, some of you are in attorney states, you're not in escrow states, right? And so it's going to be handled differently in attorney states as well. But at the end of the day, you've got a signed contract for compensation at that point. You're entitled to that compensation. And, you may have to go to court to enforce that. But if you were awarded a judgment, absolutely. When you're awarded a judgment in every state I'm aware of, you can put that lien on property just like a mechanics lien. I just recently received it's a very nice 6-figure judgment on someone that, decided they were going to play games. And guess what? We've gone and we've attached liens to everything they own. And so they'll never be able to sell those properties without us getting paid. All right. So that being said, last couple of questions here. Let's see. What do I think? Saul, what do you think this is going to do to part-time agents?
Well, it depends how good they are. It depends on whether they can make their if they can present their value to buyers and sellers. And but we talked about this yesterday, Michael. We think this might thin things out a little bit. Although, in a lot of MLSs in the country, less than 50% sell more than 2 properties a year anyway. So are those people part-time or they're just not real good at selling? I don't know. But the fact is that the industry, and maybe this is kind of a good thing, we complain about it at times, but the fact is this is really an entrepreneurial business, isn't it? And people sometimes do this while they do other things. And while some people think you got to be 100% full-time, 24 hours a day doing real estate, some people are nurses and then do real estate as well. It's like, there's a real mix in this industry, right? So it's hard to say.
All right. That said, oh, look at this. Karen got here just in time for us to wrap it up. I love it. I like to tease people about being on time. Anyway, that being said, guys, I appreciate y'all being on. We've had literally hundreds. I think we've breached the 500 agent mark on this call at one point in time between Facebook and the Zoom call. Guys, I really appreciate you being on. I appreciate your support. I'm going to continue to answer questions. Saul, if you would do me a favor, if you want to jump into that Facebook feed as well, and maybe you can, when you get some time, maybe jump in there, answer a couple of questions in there that we may not have gotten to as well. And I will make a major effort to do that, guys. Guys, just as a reminder, there's 3 things that I do, just in case you're wondering how you can engage with me. I coach agents all over the country on how to grow their business. And I own a company called Club Wealth. We have over 65 coaches, all of whom sell more real estate than the people they coach. That's very unique to us. I also help people with saving money, particularly real estate agents, but I help people at large saving money on their insurance, on their healthcare. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I'll mention that in the comments. And I also help people invest in real estate. And I'm telling you guys all right now, you should write this down. Be your own best client. See, here's the thing, guys. When stuff like this comes up, you don't know what's going to happen in your industry. You don't control everything. We can only control the controllables. But you know one thing that you can control? You need to follow the admonition of the author in The Richest Man in Babylon, George Clausen. And you need to remember that a portion of what you earn is yours to keep. You need to squirrel away a little bit of money every month. I would recommend a minimum 10% of the money that you make every month. You need to squirrel away, and you need to invest that in real estate. Now, there's certain guidelines for how you should do that to ensure that you're doing it safely and profitably. If you're concerned about how to do that or don't think it can be done in your area, I would be happy to partner with you. I do this with people all over the country, where basically they put up the money, I find the properties, I rehab the properties, I negotiate the properties, I do all the work, I find the tenants, get them lined up before we close, I manage the tenants, I do everything, we split the profits. So here's the deal. If you're interested in one of those three things, if you're interested in coaching, type in coaching in the comments. If you're interested in the health sharing or the healthcare and you want to save money there, type health and healthcare in the comments. And if you're interested in partnering with me on rental properties, type partner on rentals in the comments. I will reach out to you and I'll get you more information about each of those things. I want you guys to do me one last favor. Can you please give Saul a shout out in the comments? Thanks, Saul, for being with us today. This man spent 2 hours of his time. He didn't get paid for this. He just did this out of the goodness of his heart. And I'm telling you, I learned a lot just hearing Saul's answers to a lot of this. It really helped me. I feel like it helped a lot of you guys as well. I hope it did. And if it did, then definitely please comment and say so in the comments. Saul, did you have any final words you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Thanks for the opportunity, Michael. It's early in this conversation. So many things are going to change before the practices really change. And just people got to be aware of that. Again, I have a blog. It's the dataadvocate.com, thedataadvocate.com. And we post anything and everything. My partner, John Riley, is a real estate attorney. We try to be on the leading edge of figuring out what's going to happen. But just like so many people today, we don't know what's going to happen. But the more we talk about it, the sooner we talk about it, the more we can get you thinking about it. You're going to figure out ways to integrate the changes into your business. And if you can do that and you can have a better life, then that's great. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're the best, Saul. Seriously appreciate it. Thank you guys all for being on, and thank you for sharing it with everybody you can. And thanks for your comments. I will go through. I'm going to be honest with you. All you guys that reached out about the health sharing, about the coaching, or about the partnering, guys, if you saw my inbox today on in my direct messages, it is insane. I am so far behind right now. I'm going to do everything I can to get caught up. It's going to take me a couple of days. Please be patient with me as I get caught up on responding to you guys. I will respond to each and every one of you as best I can. And by the way, if you haven't heard from me by Monday, get back in here, comment again, or send me a DM, and I will do everything within my power to get you guys the information you're looking for. Saul, thanks again so much. Have an awesome day, everybody. Remember, this is an opportunity. This is not a problem. This is the best thing that could have happened to our industry. This is going to be fantastic. Guys, right now, this year, 2024, is absolutely the time for you to capture market share and have your best year yet. I'm telling you right now, it's awesome. Interest rates are trending downwards. There's high demand. There's at least enough inventory that we can still sell some stuff. And by the way, agents have gotten out of this business in droves. Even though the numbers don't reflect it yet, there's a lot of agents that are going out and they're driving Uber and they're doing all this other stuff instead of actually selling real estate full time. Guess what? That opens up a lot of opportunity for you guys. So go out there, hit that perfect daily schedule, get aggressive with your habits. Remember, be aggressive with the process, not the people, and you're going to make a ton of money this year. Have an awesome day, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Saul.
Take care. Bye-bye.